spokesman, one of the top people in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan, and was quoted exactly, quote, "Honestly, I think this case is nonsense." Now, every real estate person in New York does what Trump did. Nobody's ever been charged with this before. It's a perversion of justice.
It's a bombshell video
for Steven Crowder's Mug Club.
Mug Club Undercover
has been just killing.
Goes on to say that he thinks
that the slew of criminal charges against Trump is part of a larger political maneuver designed to derail his political candidacy and to make him a convicted felon.
I thought we lived in a democratic republic where we get to elect the president, not you guys get to throw him in jail when he looks like he's going to win. And that's what this looks like. This is exactly what they're trying to do.
So within 48 hours, there is now a 0% chance that he's in jail before that.
We have some breaking news.
Judge Juan Merchan has ruled on Trump's request to delay the sentencing, that he will in fact delay it until November 26th.
They ought to drop it. They shouldn't delay it. They should drop it. Drop all of it. Drop all of
it. And that's because of Mug Club.
The contentious relationship between YouTube and Crowder has been heating up. In this country, all people are equal before the law, but in a few short years, all peoples around the globe were electrified to learn that what Vox dreamed of, but could not accomplish, came to a thundering realization with YouTube's lightning-like targeting of conservative voices.
This show, Mug Club and its viewers are linked together in their cause against big technology, and their greed will defend to the death your right to free speech, fighting for the cause like good comrades to the utmost of our strength. Mug Club shall go on to the end. We shall fight on the YouTubes, we shall fight on the Twitters and the Instagrams, we shall fight with unwavering confidence and growing strength, even in the face of demonetization. We shall defend every channel, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight against the liberal media. We shall fight in the quarantined Reddits. We shall fight in the Young Turks comment section. We shall fight at the TED Talks. We shall fight with our retweets and our likes, and we shall fight with all our jokes and with every irritating, distasteful sketch. And we shall never, ever surrender. And if, which I do not for a moment believe, this show and its supporters were subjugated or shadow banned, then our Mug Club, beyond all YouTube, armed and guarded by the half-Asian Kraken, will carry on the struggle until in God's good time, the new, free online world with all its power and might steps forth to the rescue and liberation of the cancelled.
Break the grip of the YouTube Gestapo and join at ladderwithcrowder.com/mugclub today.
You're going to hear a lot of it.
Hey, glad to be with you. It is debate night. Our mics weren't hot there, were they?
No.
Oh, thank God we didn't lose the black audience. I'm kidding. Of course,
I didn't say anything
Of course,
yet.
I'm kidding. We were talking about Warnock in the kindest of terms. Glad to be with you. Look, we have been doing this every major event, town hall, debate. This may be the only one from now to the election live stream of the century, November 5th, 2024. And tonight, just wanted to thank you, by the way, Mug Club. You may have helped change the course of history with the Mug Club Undercover video. Of course, it's being cited as kind of the crux of Donald Trump's argument right now on the campaign trail as to the weaponization of the DOJ. You did that. You helped embolden an entire potential administration, so we appreciate it. None of this happens without you. The promo code tonight is Trump2024 or Trump24. Click that button on Rumble, loudearthcreditor.com/mugclub. You get $24 off.
Tonight only.
Tonight only, because we are not slowing this train down.
That's right, baby.
Don't say baby.
I know.
I don't want you to say baby. So tonight, before we continue, Gerald Captain Morgan, CEO, right there. We don't need to hear from him. And then funniest man alive, where he's going to. Oh, that's right. November 9th, he is going to be in Bridgeview at the Bridgeview Center Theater. How do I? Ottumwa?
It's one of the places you played. I was going to ask you.
Ottumwa, Iowa?
Ottumwa, Iowa. The tickets aren't on sale yet. I think they go on sale the 20th. Yes, you guys just put it up there.
Remember, hey, mark your calendars. In 10 days, go by.
This is a Gay Williams idea.
Damn it,
I'm just doing what he told me to do.
Drinking game rules.
And September 27th at Wise Guys in Jordan's Landing, Utah. I'll see you guys there. You big
I got to tell you, Iowa, you're going to show up. It's just going to be William in a green room. I don't think there's a show happening.
You got to earn that next show, Nick.
No. Did you
I picked the wrong day to quit being a booking agent.
I go, look. I can't even say it.
He's going to be on the show soon, by the way. Hey, bring up, so people know, bring up right there, CNN in the lower third.
You played that theater, though, right?
No.
This is one of yours,
I don't think I've done a show in Iowa. I have no idea. Maybe
oh, my God.
We've got a debate.
William, I'm going to tan your body.
Before we could, if at some point, this is a live show, by the way, every weekday, 10 a.m. Eastern. Of course, we do these special debate streams. But if at some point you're watching and the YouTube overlords make us have to do this,
Nick's talking.
Head on over to Rumble, because that's where you should be anyway. And that's where the election stream, of course, November 5th, is probably going to take place. For those of you who are new, drinking game rules tonight for this debate. Bring them up. You will drink. Anytime Kamala answers with word salad. Anytime Kamala defends the last 4 years. Anytime Trump lands a zinger. Anytime Kamala parrots a proven lie about Trump. And you finish your drink if Kamala ever actually manages to say, "I'm speaking." What's going on? We have an intern here yelling at Gerald.
What's your wine too cold?
Problem. By the way, your livers are going to hate you, and no, you cannot call in drunk tomorrow. Be honest about it. Be honest.
So before we continue with this, let me go into the moderators who we have tonight's debate. And let me ask you this. What do you expect from tonight? We'll go through our kind of keys to victory. There have been a lot of changes in 1 week. A lot of changes. Donald Trump is the favorite. Act like he's not. Of course, the sentencing was delayed in New York. And this is how effective feminism is, which we'll see tonight. The fact that everyone isn't just saying that E. Jean Carroll is out of her mind.
Yeah.
That's because everyone's afraid of feminism. Like, what are you, victim blaming? No, I'm batshit crazy blaming. She's out of her mind. She's accused pretty much every man she's ever met of raping her and named her cat Vagina.
Or dog, whichever one it was.
I did touch your ass at a Target a couple weeks ago.
Oh, really? Well, Target's usually open to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they're going to sue you in 20 years, Nick.
It's like the new Applebee's. It's where you pick up crazy chicks.
Oh, I go there for the wings.
I do the 2 for $20, but it's just me. You ever try to finish their spinach artichoke dip? It's difficult to do by yourself.
Picture of Dick Cheney on the menu clutching his heart.
Sounds like a sad night.
Oh, see, I'm glad. See, we have a positive tone tonight.
Yeah, well, I was told to.
Dick Cheney.
I'd be throwing up the internet.
Dick Cheney, what an ass at this point. Dick Cheney.
I know. Him and Liz.
I know.
Liz?
I love, it's the Democrats party, the warmongers. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's like,
go for it.
Oh, wait, hold on a second. You were endorsed by who you called Darth Cheney?
Yes.
Didn't you do a whole film, Adam McKay, about Dick Cheney and how evil he was, and now you're embracing him? Please, show everybody how inconsistent you are intellectually.
Is he embracing him, Adam McKay?
Well, no, he was crapping all over him, but I'm saying the entire left hated Dick Cheney.
Oh,
because,
yes. Yeah, well, you know how they were. They go where the wind blows them.
Yes, exactly.
She was in Kamala's house.
Hey, now, that's the mayor's house.
I didn't know what that meant, but it sounded dirty.
The finest house in all the land. Okay, the moderators we have tonight. ABC is terrible. But the moderator specifically tonight, so let me give you just a rundown on him. David Muir, his World News Tonight coverage, we have some references here for you. On Trump, 93% negative. And on Harris, I know you're thinking 99. No, 100% positive. 100% positive on Harris.
Zero comments of negativity?
Zero comments of negativity because she is beyond.
So the 7% positive is when he almost got assassinated, probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Exactly.
Probably.
Yeah.
Another moderator we have is Lindsay Davis.
Who the hell's that? Girl or guy?
Well, that's a good question, and you'll tell by this clip. This is one of the neutral moderators tonight who linked Trump to the KKK.
You know, former President Donald Trump is expected to go campaign in Howell, Michigan tomorrow. Many people are aware that a month ago in Howell, KKK protesters marched in the streets with the white robes on and suggested that they support Donald Trump. I'm curious if you make anything about that connection and him going in particular to Howell tomorrow.
Right. Well, the American National Retarded Union supports her. It doesn't mean that she's just the guilt by if it's guilt by association. You know, we're all sitting next to each other, so none of us are getting out.
They
of
fight like children.
Yes.
They fight like. I just want to. Please, can we drop the gloves? Somebody get me a musket.
Well,
if you're going to do that, get something better than a musket.
No. I appreciate that he's a Renaissance man.
Oh, okay. Well,
I appreciate that
2 minutes a shot.
He wants to put in the work.
Not effective.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm gonna have a bump stock thing on it.
A bump stock on a musket. It just makes it impossible to load. He's got a rubber band on his belt loop. Speaking of children, this is also the same network. Keep in mind, ABC neutral, by the way. And this could be the only debate we have with Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. This is the stomping ground of the daily brain cell holocaust known as The View.
The Holocaust isn't about race.
Hey, Warren Sapp.
No.
Imagine being born into a girl's body when you were a boy and you were experiencing that, and you could have had blockers.
You are a nice person. Woo, Pete.
Thank you.
Climate change exists.
That's
or something is returning.
Earthquakes are not at the mercy of climate change. It's underground. It can't.
What Donald Trump's people keep saying is those families invited us, they told us. But that'd be like a 9/11 family member telling me I could swim in the memorial fountain.
Stop, just stand.
Who fell down?
I read the book. It had me hot and bothered.
The KKK is going to find me.
Whoopi Goldberg, one of the most famous female comedians in the U.S.
Once black people get guns in this country, the gun laws will change. Trust me. Well, we very rarely do this, and it may be setting a bad precedent, but we love him so. We've asked Donald Trump to stay to the second segment.
And they're trying to humanize him and change your idea about who this guy is. Don't fall for that.
Trump, you're talking about. Yeah.
I'm going to say goodnight now.
Goodbye now.
Time to scissor. Now.
Poor Ted Danson.
This is the network. It's the network.
She's a beanbag with dreads.
Yes,
Hey, I'm not Warren Sapp, John. That's crazy. You say I'm Warren Sapp. That's a whole other person.
I forgot you did.
It's not me. I'm Whoopi. Warren Sapp is the other guy.
Whoopi.
What did Kinnison say about her? A nation strives not to hurt a woman's feelings.
Yeah. Boy, is it rough. And we're going to get to the polls in a second. But before that, again, we'll bring back up the drinking game rules, which are you drink anytime Kamala answers with the word. Well, not the word. Sorry, I messed that up. With word salad, I had to drink. We had the
word
clip
salad.
already with the word salad.
Hey, can I get some of that word salad? It's like Waldorf, but you put in alphabet cereal.
Anytime Kamala defends the last 4 years, you drink. Anytime Trump lands a zinger, you drink. And anytime Kamala proves a lie about Donald Trump to be a lie because she parrots it. See, I'm doing really well. And then finish the drink anytime Kamala says, I'm speaking, which would be a miracle if she does it because their mics are being muted, which brings
There's
us...
an office bet about that.
There is currency riding on that. Significantly more than $1 on this side.
She's going to say it while a moderator is speaking.
No, she's going to say it when Trump's speaking on the other side.
But
it does bring us to our debate rules.
Hold on one second. Before I forgot to tell you guys, we have Rob Schneider on the show after for the post-debate wrap-up, as well as a 7+1. It is the 7+1 failed excuses that Kamala used to try and get out of this debate because she got out of the one last week. And she was trying to get out of this one tonight. We have an inside lane 7+1. And you have the debate rules because a lot of people don't know these are very particular rules tonight.
Absolutely. 90 minutes with 2 commercial breaks. Only moderators will ask questions. There are no opening statements, but closing statements will be 2 minutes per candidate. Trump will have the final word. He won the coin toss, and Kamala Harris got to choose which podium, the short one, she's standing behind. The candidates will have 2 minutes to answer, 2-minute rebuttals, and 1 extra minute for follow-ups, clarifications, or responses. Candidates will stand behind podiums for the duration. No walking around. That kind of makes it to where Trump can't loom behind like Hillary Clinton. No topics or questions will be shared in advance. Microphones will be live only for the candidate whose turn it is to speak. Campaign staff will not interact with the candidates during commercial breaks, and there will be no audience in the room. By the way, also, pre-written notes are not allowed on stage, nor props.
Oh my God, she's dead.
What was that?
No props.
He said no props.
I thought it was. It's not pro.
He said
prop.
no props.
You're gonna have to no props. Sorry.
Dang it.
Well, there goes like 5 minutes of pregame.
Well, it's in the rules. I don't make them. I read them.
Oh, right. Let's get to the polls.
Was that seedless?
They spent a lot of time.
Seedless?
I got one of the eye. That's no joke.
So let's get to, by the way, the polls here that have changed. And here's something that is very interesting. We'll get to our debate strategy really quickly, or at least the keys to victory. No, Josh, they said no props. No props.
No props, Josh.
No props.
Sorry.
But I guess later in the show we have Ginger Top because we already paid for it.
Yeah.
So we'll have Ginger Top on the show later.
Cake Top. Got it.
The chances of victory right now. Nate Silver, as of the beginning of this broadcast, it is 8:45 Eastern. Trump at 61, Kamala at 38. And at the end of the DNC, to keep in mind, Trump was at 46 and Kamala was at 52. Jeez. Now, the reason that matters is because only one thing has changed. Right? Why did she not get that convention bounce? And that ties into tonight's debate. One thing happened. Can you guys remember what it is? Comment below, don't cheat. And of course, we'll make all the references available. Link in the description. She gave one interview, and it was a genocide.
I made sure that they changed the policy in the state of California so that every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access to the medical care that they desired and need.
She said on immigration, she made this open-ended pledge to end immigrant detention. She said she supported taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries for detained migrants. She also said she supported
taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries for detained migrants. She actually said she supported that.
She both wrote and answered in the affirmative when she was asked this. And she said she also supported it for federal prisoners.
But I do want to ask you about this CNN report. It shows Harris voiced support for cutting funding for ICE and for using taxpayer money to fund transgender surgery for detained migrants in 2019. Does the vice president still support those positions, and do you expect her to address them tonight?
Listen, I think that was the wrong clip, which we had prepped for you as to how radical Kamala Harris is. But since we've already addressed it, keep that in mind. She actively supported and said out loud in 2019, taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries for felonious violent inmates and illegal immigrants. Look behind you. That's where the line is that we crossed as far as this being a discussion of the legitimate role of government. Think about it. We're talking, you're talking about corporate tax rates. Hey, this is how far they've come. They're not talking about the legitimate purview as far as military, police. It's not about that. They believe that you, the taxpayer, the founding fathers would have wanted you to pay for fake penises for people who've committed violent felonies. When people say the right has gone far right and the left has gone far, no, the right hasn't gone far right. Just go back to for crying out loud, Carter. Go back to JFK and in every house in this country, a fake cock for inmates. It's not. It's so radical. This is where we are.
Let's be honest. It's the guys getting breasts so they can go have fun in the women's prison. They're probably not going to.
That's what I would do.
I mean, that's.
If I knew I were being locked up, hey, I've been transgender this whole time. And they would say, you were on the show making all these transphobic comments. I would say, it was a cry for help and none of you helped me. I would throw every single one of you under the bus. And I would say, that's all this time I was crying out for help. This is who I am. I'm a woman. And so I get to screw in prison. And then I get out 8 years later, get on a cycle. I get to screw when I get out of prison.
Well, if I'm paying for transgender with my tax money, I want to say what that thing looks like at the end.
Yes.
Start with triple, 33 Ds.
Yes.
Green eyes, ass like a nectarine. If I get skin in the game, I want to say where that skin goes.
This sounds like a sentencing hearing.
I'm sorry.
I sentence you to green eyes, double Ds, and ass like a nectarine.
And you'll have backaches the rest of your life.
Like you're God with a serpent.
I've been dragging this log around, I should know.
All right, so
CNN sucks. Anyways.
The only change that has taken place for the polls to switch this drastically, and this ties into the debate strategy, the only change is that Kamala Harris, and this is the right clip now, gave an interview on CNN once, and that flipped it. Double-digit points because it was a disaster.
Day one, it's going to be about, one, implementing my plan for what I call an opportunity economy. I've already laid out a number of proposals in that regard, which include what we're going to do to bring down the cost of everyday goods. Let's be clear, my values have not changed. I believe it is very important that we take seriously what we must do to guard against what is a clear crisis in terms of the climate.
2019, I believe, in a town hall, you said, you were asked, would you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking on your first day in office? And you said, there's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So yes. So it changed in that campaign?
In 2020, I made very clear where I stand. We are in 2024, and I've not changed that position, nor will I going forward. Dana, I think the most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective.
Okay, cut it. We get it. She sucks. So this is why Donald Trump, when asked about his strategy, and we'll get into their debate prep, his answer, looking at the polls, was really simple.
Are you aware of how she debates and probably every name in the book she can call you, and without giving away your tactic?
Yeah, you don't want to do that, but when I had Biden, you and I had the same discussion, and I let him talk. I'm going to let her talk because
That's it.
You've all seen it. There are those that say that Biden is smarter than she is, okay? And if that's the case, we have a problem.
By the way, I will fact check Donald Trump. No one said that. Nobody said that. There are lots of people who say she's actually less sharp than Joe Biden. Frankly, I've heard doctors say it. No one said it.
Joe Biden said it.
Yeah, maybe Joe Biden
Maybe
said
an insider.
It could be an insider.
Probably an insider.
The voice inside her head, maybe.
Which one?
So two things for you. The debate starting here in about, 6-7 minutes, something like that, 8 minutes right now. We are going to punch in and punch out very surgically like we did last time, so you will be able to hear
the entire
all of
debate.
what they say. But I do have an update. This is being reported right now that potentially ABC is now open to potentially unmuting Trump or Harris's mics, depending on if something newsworthy starts happening. So the Harris campaign wanted the mic unmuted because they know it hurts Donald Trump because people try to speak over her. It was guardrails, essentially, when CNN hosted the debate right now.
Yeah.
If they do it for when he is speaking over her for the moment that I told you would happen, one way or the other, excuse me, I'm speaking, that's what they want.
Yeah, that's what they want.
Yeah, but can I just say something? That's been said a million times this week, so everybody's going to be looking for it. It's not going to have the effect.
You're right. Yeah, it won't happen in darkness. That's true.
I think he's going to reach across and slap her.
Well, I think there's
knock her false teeth right out of her filthy face.
I think there's a lot of good things. Let's go to the keys to success, though, because that's something I want to make sure we get to before we go. So
3-4 defense.
You don't want to show? Okay,
7 minutes.
Okay, before we go to the keys to victory.
Okay, go.
Okay. We'll do the Ricky Smiley video after. It only has 5,000 views on YouTube. But this is also tough for Kamala Harris, just because I think this is really pretty funny. Some videos have resurfaced of her and Willie Brown. It's clip Kamala Willie.
He's a rogue, all right, notorious for his flamboyant lifestyle. Flashy clothes, fancy parties, fine women.
Are you his daughter?
Oh, do you see how she said that?
Now.
As the mayor.
If ever a man and a municipality were made for each other, it is this man, this place.
And you can see clapping behind him, this whore. Now, and fine women. She's right.
I know.
So
Are you his daughter?
No.
No.
Are you Aaliyah?
I like Willie when he got older, right? He kind of
It was kind of fun.
He's kinda
He
cool
just
when he
seemed
got
like
old.
he was the luckiest guy in showbiz. You know what I
he's
mean?
like the rest of them. He's a pimp.
Yes. It's pronounced pimp.
I mean politicians, by
Which
the way.
brings us to tonight. Okay, what can we expect? And like we said, we're going to punch in, punch out so you can see the entire debate. You don't need to tune in somewhere else. We'll fact check it. We have Rob Schneider after the debate, and we will be cutting in during the commercial breaks to fact check. But what do we expect tonight, and what I think are the actual, and all of us here, keys to victory for Donald Trump this debate? Oh, I thought we had a stinger.
No.
There it is.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Sorry.
So I talked about this with Donald Trump before and Joe Biden. What he needs to do is parry right away. If she starts attacking him, and I'll get into what I think she's going to be doing. I think she's going to redirect quite a bit. She's not going to answer specific questions, but she will turn to Donald and ask specifics. And will you tell women out there that they're right to choose? Will you look them in the eye? So what Donald Trump needs to do is parry, meaning don't spend a lot of time on defense. Swat it down and go right back on a counter, meaning an offense, an attack, and hit her with the results of the destructive policies. You have a contrast. You have 8 years of Obama. You have really 3, but let's call 4 years of Donald Trump, and another 3.5, 4 years of Biden at this point. Right? Make her wear that. Parry it and go to that contrast. Barack Obama, a $1,000 median salary increase across the United States in 8 years. Donald Trump, over $4,000 in the first 3 years. Joe Biden, negative $4,400. Inflation, awful. Border, terrible. And then question her. Don't allow her to put him in the hot seat and question him. Counter, right? Parry, boom, counter on offense and give her a question that she can't answer. That's what I think he needs to do tonight. I think she'll also be feigning a lot of indignation. She'll be, he lies. That's what he does. And he's dishonest. And excuse me, I'm speaking.
Question she can't answer. How about spell your name?
Yeah, that might be a layup.
Kamala.
Spell your name. Pronounce it correctly. What kind of Indian are you? Or are you black? Tell everybody. Show them how black you are. Show them your palms.
Oh, my goodness. That's racist.
Look, I would never say that. A lot of people tell me
I'd say it.
that she has the palms of an Indian, frankly.
So the X factor here is if I'm Donald Trump, make her answer for her flip-flops, too.
The palms.
Don't let her do it. Don't let her just flip-flop. Don't let her just go, well, and she'll do this. She'll say, as I've already said, to try and make it sound like she's answered for these crazy radical policies. She has not. She just said, my values haven't changed. Well, your policy changed, so what changed? She never actually said, well, then I looked into environmental science and realized that fracking was better than the alternative. She's never actually had to answer for anything. Make her answer. She is going to try and redirect questions to him. He should parry broadly, get to her with specifics. She's not going to answer on specifics. It would be really great. I know he tends to talk a lot. People say that he bloviates sometimes, and that's just the way he kind of meanders, but he's a storyteller. It would be great if they ask her a question. Hey, how do you view the economy right now? What would you do as president? Well, it's doing well, but it's struggling. And word salad, if they go to him, what would you do your first day? And he would just say, cut corporate tax rates down to 23%, down to 22%. Open up offshore drilling and however many executive actions that were undone, 89, I believe, and shut down our border, which will save the American taxpayer at least $150 billion a year. Why aren't you doing it now, Kamala? What are you waiting for? That's what he should do. That's what he should do. If he could just answer really specifically, toss it right back to her, that would be the most shocking thing. People are acting like the most shocking thing would be if he didn't use a nickname, if he didn't insult her. The most shocking thing would be if he answered hyper specifically, just once or twice, and your ball. She wouldn't be able to handle it, I guarantee you.
I say hit her on the face with a wingtip. Those are business shoes,
She also would not be able to handle that, yes.
I'm more of a double mug strap guy. Leaves the imprint. 2 imprints.
Yeah. No, and she's going to be looking for the abortion moment tonight. I think that's what they.
Yeah, she is an abortion moment.
Shown like they can't really win on stop it. They can't really win on the economy. They can't really win on inflation.
She's
they can't really win on the border or anything like that. They've got to have this moment on abortion tonight because Trump so far hasn't answered in a way that they can really use.
He should hit her in the chest.
That's why they want
to. The fetus of a cat, straight out of Springfield.
And the cat, I present to you. Vagina, the Wonder Cat.
Carol's cat, for those of you. Yeah.
That was him.
And by the way, just for fun, just because, did I miss anything,
No,
Gerald?
you got it.
Gerald's key to victory.
Oh, yeah, Gerald, you have the key. That's right. Gerald has a key to victory tonight as well.
Let's go to the guy from Notre Dame who lost to Northern Illinois about a key to victory.
That's not the only key to victory.
Yes.
Lick the stick.
That's his key. That's his key. I know that they're. Hey, look, it's the lady with the hairy forearms on CNN.
She looks good sometimes, and other times she looks like my mechanic.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the hairy forearms. You think it's like oil?
Screwed.
It's just.
Oh, she doesn't have a sweater on? That's hair?
I just assume so.
I thought that was a sleeves. Go ahead.
I just, I don't know.
That's what I thought it was.
Yeah, it's soft. It's like down feather
She
on
got
her
hairs
forearm.
like Robin Williams or Sarah Silverman. Then Jake Tapper with that whiny look on his face.
The guy is going to compare Donald Trump to Hitler. You got people out there who are undecided. Can you at least respect the balls that it takes to go into enemy territory? Are they starting right now? It looks like they're
looks like it is.
starting to launch. Okay, let's go right now live. The promo code is Trump24 to join Mug Club and support Mug Club Undercover and the election live stream of the century. You get $24 off. We can't do it without you.
We've got 36 seconds.
35. How long is Eric
CNN Live.
Okay, never mind. We'll use it later.
Well, let me say this. We do have new merch out there right now. So Trump versus everyone. You can go to crowdershop.com right now and grab some fantastic merch. Just let your freak flags fly. Go do it right now. Join Mug Club and 18 seconds. Hopefully, Jake Tapper will keep using the hand mic because people.
What are we about to say, Nick?
This is a battle between white guys and evil supremacy. For the last 50 years, we've been hearing against affirmative action, BLM, all that horse shit. This is culminating. This is their wet dream.
Yeah.
A woman of color. They're this close.
Or
against a guy who represents what the last 100 years has been success.
Or it
We'll
could be
see
the
who wins.
managerial class versus tech support. Let's see what they say at CNN.
Yes.
Meeting in this presidential election, their first face-to-face meeting ever.
Speaking of faces, yours is very asymmetrical.
You could cut yourself in those shoulder pads.
Biden withdrawing after his last
Jesus.
debate. Donald Trump now up against a new opponent.
The candidates separated by the smallest of margins,
Shut
essentially
up.
tied in the polls nationally and in the
Lie.
key battlegrounds, including right here in Pennsylvania, all still very much in play.
No.
The ABC News presidential debate starts right now.
This is an
She looks like she's wearing the jacket the guy wore in the Mentos commercial where he rolls on the painted bench.
A woman of color and a guy from ABC News. I wonder how hard they'll go on Kamala.
That's why we're here.
nation again. Face to face, historic. The ABC News presidential debate. Here now, David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
Good evening, I'm David Muir, and thank you for joining us for tonight's ABC News presidential debate. We want to welcome viewers watching on ABC and around the world.
I'm
tonight.
Adrian Brody,
Vice
stand
President
in.
Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump are
Split
just
the difference
moments away
between-
from taking the stage in this unprecedented race for president.
And I'm Lindsay Davis. Tonight's meeting could be the most consequential event of their campaigns, with Election Day now less than 2 months away. For Vice President Kamala Harris, this is her first debate since President Biden withdrew from the race on July 21st. Of course, that decision
No, it's her
follows
first
his
debate. Fact check. It's her first debate since she failed in the primary and came in dead last.
And that brings us
in 2019.
2019.
I lost a lot of money on that.
Other than the VP debate.
Or questions have been shared with the campaigns. The candidates will have 2 minutes to answer.
By the way, they gave her a smaller podium, so the size discrepancy wouldn't be as apparent. If I were in charge of it, I would give her the smaller podium she asked for, but a huge-ass microphone.
Turned on when it's their turn to speak. No pre-written notes allowed. There is no audience here tonight in this hall at the National Constitution Center. This is an intimate setting
Because they'd
for
boo
two
her.
candidates who have never met.
President Trump won the coin toss. He chose to deliver the final closing statement of the evening. Vice President Harris selected the podium to the right.
So let's now welcome the candidates to
The
the stage.
miniature one.
Vice President Kamala Harris.
All right, guys, here we go. Most important debate probably of our life, at least up until now.
Shake hands.
Sniff her ass.
Kamala Harris.
Let's have a good debate.
Have fun. Thank you.
Welcome to you both. It's wonderful to have you. It's an honor to have you both here tonight.
That was weird.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
Shut up.
So let's get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their number one issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid.
She's drunk.
And I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations,
Word
the
salad,
dreams
drink.
of the
Bring up the
American
drinking game rules.
people. And that is why
She's
I
drunk.
imagine and have
I'm telling you, she's
planned
drunk.
to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing, and the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people.
Whose fault?
We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time.
Why don't you do it now?
So that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. I was actually, my mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy.
Who pays for that?
My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit.
Parroting a proven lie about Donald Trump drink?
That I call the Trump sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas.
They asked about the results, if you're better off now than 4 years ago.
Middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
Word salad, another drink.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
Go.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because it was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation has, which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that Xi and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again, and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well,
she had first answer.
Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression.
Fact check, we'll bring that up, not true.
Us the worst public health epidemic in a century. More
deaths under Biden than Donald Trump, and he wasn't in during the peak.
The worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War.
January 6th?
Oh my God!
Not 9/11?
Trump's mess.
Think about that for a second.
What I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes
But
of the
he's got a
American
collar
people. But
on
I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight.
By the way,
you're gonna
notice
hear
he's straight-faced.
from the
She's
same
doing
old
the.
tired playbook. A bunch of lies, grievances, and name
He shook his
calling.
head once.
What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025.
Drink,
that the
parroting
former
lie about
president
Donald Trump.
intends
This
on
woman is evil.
implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands
She's
the
already
of bringing
tripping
us
up. Do you notice?
together, knowing
She's
we
starting to
have
stutter.
much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Good.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad. But it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things. But
honestly, we may not have a ton of fact checking to do because Donald Trump is doing a really good job thus far.
Were bounce back jobs. These were jobs.
Piece of cake for him. She's an idiot.
And it went to their benefit.
She's a fucking moron.
2/3 of the total jobs were recovered from the pandemic, by the way, when they try to claim the jobs that they recovered.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And
Oh,
when you
does she
look
get to
at
talk
his
again?
economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people.
She's already out of
I am offering
ideas.
what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists
Yeah, you already
in
said
our
that.
country, if not the world.
She's already
have
repeating
reviewed
herself.
our
She's already
relative
repeating herself.
plans for the future
Guys,
of
comment below.
America.
Donald Trump has no plan for you.
Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald
She
Trump's
can't.
plan
She can't
would
handle
make
this.
the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy.
Now do unrealized capital gains.
The
What do the
Wharton
economists
School
say?
has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode
Dry mouth.
the
That's
deficit.
the problem, yeah.
16 Nobel
Started that way.
laureates have described
I thought that was her
his
ass.
economic plan as something that would
Wrong.
increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite
She's
you
pointing
to
out the
know
stuff that might go
Donald
bad.
Trump
He's
actually
pointing out
has
stuff
no
that
plan
went
for
bad
you
under her.
because
Great point.
he's more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say.
They let her,
Went to the Wharton
they let
School
her
of
go
Finance,
and they cut him off.
many
There
of
you go.
those
Did you see that?
professors, the top professors,
He did
think
land
my
a zinger,
plan
though.
is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences. Like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, we'll try
That's a
and lower
zinger.
taxes.
That's a
She
zinger
doesn't
drink.
have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up.
Your
the
wife.
Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the
As
typical
opposed to the
family nearly
32%
$4,000
increase in gas while she was president,
believe
or
Americans
homes
will
139% for a 30-year mortgage.
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation.
Don't spend too much time on
They
tariffs.
had
It's a
the
setup.
highest
They want to bog him
inflation
down.
perhaps in the
Yep.
history of our country, because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response, and you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be
All right,
clear
David.
that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in
So why
the
didn't you
history
change
of
it?
America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is, under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military. Basically,
by the way, interesting she
sold
says
us
trade
out
deficits because
when a
as far as
policy about
jobs that were created, 6.3 million jobs went to foreign-born workers under Kamala Biden, only 400,000 under Donald Trump. American jobs were created under Donald Trump no matter what.
Focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI,
Do it now.
on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
Oh, wait! Is now the Democrat talking point lab leak?
They bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But
wow, zing
she
again.
ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country,
follow up with specifics as to Marxist policy. Otherwise, they'll just say it was an empty attack.
Into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue
really quickly. The
abortion.
Penn Wharton study. She talked about Trump's economic plan activity: $1.7 trillion positive. Economic plan for our activity for Harris: negative $800 billion.
The one she cited.
The one she cited.
Wow. Administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban because you initially had said,
of course, they were going to do this.
Too short, and you said,
well, no. Kamala Harris is going to do the whole look women in the eye.
But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that
it's the one thing they can try and make out to be a flip-flop for Donald Trump. They will not call her on fracking, capital gains taxes, on COVID, on the border. She's flipped up on everything.
The plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job.
It's Virginia, though.
No, Virginia, not West Virginia.
He said
it's
the
Virginia,
baby will
not
be born,
West Virginia.
and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words,
They'll
we'll
fact check him on
execute
that.
the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential
Good
pick,
answer.
which I think was a horrible pick.
Put it
by
back
the way,
on
for
her,
our
right,
country,
Perry? Boom,
because he is
9 months.
really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. And
Still fact check. Not everybody. Here's Lyle from Cincinnati.
Liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government.
Look at her. She looks like she's sniffing farts.
It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President,
bullshit.
What she's fact checking?
It happened in Virginia. And by the way, the Infants Born Alive Act in Illinois, Barack Obama voted against it.
Donald Trump.
The bigger point is her fact checking him.
3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means.
This is dishonest, but smart on her part to say Trump abortion bans, even though it has nothing to do with him. Hey, if they are Trump abortion bans, then they should be Trump abortion extensions in Colorado and California because it went to the states, right?
One does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country.
He's not.
You want to talk about this is what people wanted?
States are.
Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot.
Wait, hold on a second. A woman who wants to have a baby,
her husband didn't want
and
that.
doctors won't help her?
A 12 or 13-year-old
that's where it's salad, I think.
Being forced to carry
You're just a drunk.
Just to be clear, less than 1% of all abortions, incest, rape, or health of the mother.
And I
Fact
pledge
check.
to you,
Dumb broad.
when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the
This is
protections
her wheelhouse
of Roe
if
v.
she
Wade,
has one.
as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his project
Lie about Donald Trump, drink.
there would be a national
He has
abortion
openly said no.
that would be
He's going to come back and say, I won't send a national abortion ban. She is a liar.
I'm still in shock about the moderator checking him.
You're right. You're right. When you're right, you're right, Nick.
On this.
She snapped
freedom
at
to
him.
make decisions about one's own body should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Unless it's
There she
literally
goes
every other
again.
decision.
It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if
Well, I won't have to because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50, and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So
all correct, but he should laser in and let them, the bias, like you said, you saw the moderator step in, let them show their hand stepping in to save her. If he keeps talking, they won't show their hand.
I would wish he called her out on it, just politely. And said, oh, excuse me, you're checking my
But they were
work?
saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate...
He already said he wouldn't sign an abortion ban. Shut up!
That you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D., and I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans.
Don't get bogged down. Laser in. He started off really strong.
Matter what she says about
she was getting scared, dry mouth. Don't, like I said, boom, quick parry. Get it out of here. Get it out of here.
Out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you
didn't answer the question.
Rightly mentioned,
follow up and ask her, could you please answer the question? Because you asked Donald Trump, would he instate a national abortion ban? He said no. Then you followed up, asked him if he would veto one, and followed up a third time. She did not answer that question.
Insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women.
They can adopt some of your illegal immigrants
who can barely afford child care as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers.
She's using anecdotes
to go and
carrier
get the
point.
health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through
fake tears.
Wow. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans.
This is what CNN wants. They want to sit and focus on the abortion issue. Notice they spend very little time on the economy, which is the most important issue to Americans. They'll probably glaze over immigration. But let's talk about snatches.
Why? Who? What?
Excuse me, I have to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that?
Answer it. What do you mean, come on?
Why don't you ask her?
That was the question.
Don't you answer the question? Would you
because
veto?
under Roe v. Wade,
He already answered. He would not sign a national abortion ban. Do you have any limitations, sweetheart?
The 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said, we put the baby aside, and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
Ask her the question.
Listen, we're going to turn now to immigration and border security.
So look at that. Fact check. They followed up 3 times. They asked Donald Trump, did you see that? Would you send a national abortion ban? Absolutely not. Would you veto one if one's proposed? And he answered. Then they say, we need to answer that again. With her, any limitations? She doesn't answer, and they fact-check Trump. This is unbelievable.
The Biden administration this past June.
By the way, this is ABC simulcast on CNN. ABC's in charge. You said CNN.
Sorry,
The
I said
numbers since
CNN,
then have dropped
ABC.
significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And
so why are you letting him in now?
The United States Congress,
why are you letting him in
including some of
now?
the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill, which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now.
This is the bill of $20 billion to the border, none of which would be for prevention or fixing or creating a wall. But I believe it was $70 billion to Ukraine. That bill.
I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem.
Because it was $70 billion for Ukraine and $20 billion for border, none of which for the wall.
And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country
you've had over 20 million illegal immigrants under your watch.
Who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional
Careful what
characters
you
like
wish
Hannibal
for.
Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving
Kills
his
birds.
rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom.
Don't take the bait.
And I will
Don't
tell you,
take
the
the
one
bait.
thing you will not hear him talk about
He should say,
is you.
And at her rally,
You will
you'll
not
see
hear him talk about your
twerking.
needs, your dreams,
How
and
about
your,
his?
and your
How about his
desires.
supporters didn't leave
And
when there
I'll
were
tell you, I
bullets
believe
flying?
you deserve a president
There's that
who
answer.
actually puts
Doesn't get
you
any
first,
better.
and
I should have
pledge to you
coached
that
him.
I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers
Kill
on the
Bill.
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving.
Don't take the
People don't
bait.
go to
Don't take
her
the bait.
rallies. There's no reason to go.
Listen.
And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies,
Even
the
with
most
bullets.
incredible rallies in the history of politics.
That's
because
obvious.
people
Move
want
on.
to take
It's obvious.
their
Move on.
country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation.
Here we go.
And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats.
They're going to fact check him and say this wasn't verified.
The pets of the people that live there.
This is
And
not
this
a smart
what's
move on his. He
happening
should stick
in
to the
our
numbers.
country, and it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far
No, don't
as
go back to that.
the
Get off the
reason
rallies.
they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country
Just
back.
compare the
They wanna
numbers.
make
That's all you had to
America
say.
Great again. It's a very simple phrase. Make America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes
pivoted.
president, this country doesn't have a
He should have
chance
answered
of
that was a bill with
success.
$20
Not
billion
only
to the
success,
border and $70
we'll end up
billion to
being
Ukraine.
Venezuela on
And by the way, I
steroids.
wasn't in office.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News
Another
did
fact
reach
check.
out to the
Listen.
city manager there. He told us there had been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused
course
by
he said
individuals
that.
within the immigrant community.
why you shouldn't take the
people
bait.
on television.
Let me just say here, this is
The people on television say my dog
hold on,
was
you
taken.
can't
and
fact check him and not let him
used for
respond.
food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good
Yeah.
thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
But
television.
the people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying their
manager.
dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield
Named
city manager says
vagina.
there's no evidence of that. Vice
We'll
President
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme. You know,
What?
This
That
is,
liberal
I think,
fucking
one of the
laugh.
reasons why in this election I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formally worked with
None
President
of whom
Bush,
matter.
Mitt
Adam
Romney,
Kinzinger and Liz
John
Cheney.
McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President
Warmongers.
Dick Cheney and Congressmember
Dick Cheney. Hey, can we fact check?
Liz
Bring up
Cheney.
Kamala Harris's comments
And
on Dick
if
Cheney
you want to really know
and Biden's comments on
the
Dick
inside
Cheney.
track
Now
of
he's their
who
buddy. Let's
the
bring that
former
up. I'm sure we can find a
president is, if you didn't
wonderful
make it clear
history.
already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a four-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former
Your staff
national
left
security
you.
advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive.
She is trying to
another
rattle his cage,
Trump
get under his skin. I hope he
term.
stays disciplined and gets back
And
to the
when
numbers
we
and the
listen
issues.
to
Don't
this kind
take
of
the
rhetoric,
bait, Donald.
When the issues that affect
By the way, the media won't
American
talk about how
people
she's
are
making
not
personal
being
attacks right now.
addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond
Yeah.
here.
Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having
Good
to do
point.
with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people whose were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And
Good
I
answer.
got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him.
Clever pivot.
And you take a guy like Esper. He was no good. I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book. Because with me, they can write books. With nobody else, can they? But They have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any sitting president in history by far.
Oh, don't
let me continue on immigration. It was what we wanted to talk about earlier. So let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to.
He's debating three people.
President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. military.
Police,
you also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door?
Give him context. Only 3 million under his
administration. Asking for details.
Because of them.
Not on
they
her.
They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals.
380 terrorists crossed the border and counting under Kamala Harris and Biden. Only 11 under Donald Trump. 380 versus 11.
By their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country.
There you go.
And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes. But it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in. And all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof.
She's going to try and use Pete Buttigieg's statistics that don't include the reporting.
Crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country.
Bring it up because people
they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud. Just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich. Coming from someone who has been prosecuted
smug bitch.
For
there it is.
National security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next
I think you meant to say liable.
Court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear, where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding.
We'll pull that clip afterwards. The rioters should not stop, nor will they stop.
1,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race.
I told you, by the way, this is why you, Mug Club Undercover, we knew this would be the dynamic. It's gone now. It's a weaponization of the DOJ.
Same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people. Address what we need to do
You're
about
Vice President
the housing
now. Do it now.
shortage, which I have a plan
Last 3
for.
years.
Address what we must do to support our small businesses. Address
I am so
bringing down
insulted
the
that
price of
this is even a
groceries.
debate.
But
It's insulting
frankly,
to this
the American
country.
people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President
You're
Harris.
Vice President!
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're
President Trump,
fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this
Extreme is
election in
weaponizing the
2024
DOJ.
is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House
No, they
again.
recognize presidential immunity.
Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States.
Right.
That he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his
Never said it.
political
Never said it.
enemies.
That's a
Someone
no-lie.
who has
Lie,
openly
drink.
expressed
This is
disdain
insulting
for
to
members
America.
of our military. Understand what it would
Suckers
mean if
and losers
Donald
lie.
Trump were back in the White House
there
with
was.
no
Suckers and losers lie, Trump.
guardrails. Because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people
Vice
to
President
stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This
is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a
President
fake
Trump.
And the media.
Russia investigation.
We do have a lot to
That
get
went
to.
nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says
Here comes
you
word
don't.
salad.
You supported decriminalizing
Have your
border
refill ready.
crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
Answer the way we told you
My
to.
values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of the, at least every
Right.
point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking.
Just do it.
because we're
Don't
here
say
in
you're gonna do it. Just do it.
Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking.
No, you didn't.
I have not
What did I
banned
tell you?
fracking
She's going to say,
Vice
as I've
President of the United
answered
States.
before.
In fact,
You didn't make it clear.
I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened
Which
new
gave the IRS
leases.
more authority for
Trump.
taxes on tips. You were.
My
You
position
were.
is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on
Absolutely not
foreign
true. Those are the
oil.
leases that Donald Trump
As it
signed.
relates to my values, let
80-something
me tell you,
policy
I grew
positions
up
were
a
reversed
middle-class
on domestic
kid
energy
raised by a
immediately when
hardworking
Biden
mother
became president.
who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership,
comes
knowing
the
not
anecdote.
everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work.
Don't take
to
the
say
bait.
we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first
Promises.
term. My work that is related to having Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values
She'll get credit for
have
this
not
because she's not
changed.
word salad
And what
right
is
now.
important
They'll
is
go,
that
"She
there
did
is a
pretty good."
president who actually brings values
Even
and
though
a
it's lie after
perspective
lie after
that is
lie.
about lifting people up and not beating people
Chance
down.
about guns?
Okay, Josh
And name
Groban.
calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well,
response?
first of all, I
Laser
wasn't given
focused.
$400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She
No, she's
gave
for
all
it.
that stuff up very wrongly,
She's
very
shaking her head, though.
horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now. If you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar? She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail.
Fact check true. They'll say she didn't donate personally. She raised money for it.
Think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this.
Love it.
She wants to confiscate your guns,
Bloody
and
shot.
she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish one thing, so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before.
You were a net exporter for the first time.
When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of
89.
it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400, 500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that we
for the
have to get
environment,
to.
as
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
He
Lindsay,
veered there.
thank you. We have an
Square
election in
miles
just
to
56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and
Which
the role
happened.
of a
Next
president
question.
In a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what
We're going to
played
go
out.
over this again. Make your voices heard peacefully and patriotically.
Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office.
That's a
You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message.
He initially said peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. If he doesn't clarify that, the media is this is Pravda. This is Pravda.
It is Pravda. Thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer.
True.
That should have never, ever shot her.
True.
It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar, remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by
Right
the
now
border.
she
In
looks
fact,
like
she
Prince.
said at the beginning, well, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she
ascot
knows what a bad
and the
job
white
they've
face.
done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America, they're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world, and crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
when
ask
are those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle? They went into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
you. Might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You lied, David.
Yes, sir.
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C.
Pelosi admitted,
and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me.
We have that video of Nancy Pelosi admitting it was her fault. We'll bring it up afterward.
Her saying
we have a full recap at the end of this.
For what happened.
He's saying
I want to get rid of that tape.
He's saying it.
It would have never happened if Nancy
show it.
Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi. But I do want Vice President Harris to respond.
You fuck.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the President of the United States incited a violent mob
Lie about Trump
to
drink.
attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140
Guys,
law enforcement officers
if she
were
wins,
injured.
there's no saving this country. Do you
And
understand
some
that?
died.
This is the communist playbook,
understand,
Saul Alinsky 101.
Can I add to that?
Has been indicted and
The
impeached.
fact that this is even
for
a debate,
exactly
that she's gone this far, I
This is
honestly
not
I hate
an
None
to
of
be-
this is honest.
situation.
Yeah,
He's not
we're,
doing the
we're
best
already
answering,
robbed.
but this is
we've
just-
already lost it.
He incited a
We
riot.
have to get it
A
back.
mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president
What an actress
then
she
at
is.
the time say?
Bringing up
There were fine
Charlottesville,
people on each side.
where he condemned
See?
white supremacists totally.
That when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia,
I hope he brings up, you know who,
the president said, the
Snopes.
former president said, stand back
Even
and
Snopes
stand
said it was
by.
bullshit.
So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say we don't have to go back.
Sequel, bitch.
Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the
I don't think this
page.
plays to anybody but
And
the
if that
Democrats.
was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in
It's sort of
our
like when he went with
campaign for
the
you
dogs
to
thing in
stand
Ohio. She shouldn't have gone
country.
here.
to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos.
Bailing
and to
people out
end
of jail
the
during Minneapolis
approach that is
riots.
about
Stand for law.
attacking the foundations of our democracy
debated
because
it.
you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath.
I'm not about Donald Trump.
Did not.
You have the drinking game rules?
Yeah.
He did not. He was talking about the auto industry and trade.
She's showing
I will
how.
tell you this, though. This is the first time that we are seeing someone who's
and not
completely
go
unburdened
backwards
by
to the past.
having to be
Let me just
truthful
follow
at
up
all.
here.
Barack Obama had to have a veneer.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked.
So many
Laura
times.
Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people. They covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it
Say
was
Snopes.
perfect.
Snopes.
It was
Pick a liberal.
debunked in
Yes.
almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this. You talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because
Right now.
they have the right to do it. They
Do it
don't
now.
need bills. They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get
Executive
him out of bed,
action, one of the
you'll
very
wake
few
him
areas
up
where
at
you can
4
do it.
o'clock
Yep.
in the afternoon, you'll say, come on down to the office, let's sign a bill.
And they're trying to cut him off.
If he
You hear me,
signs
Muir?
a bill
Refill.
that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal.
All he has to do is say,
If they do
"Close
that, the border is closed.
sesame."
Those people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this.
We don't want to
into
focus on
truth,
immigration because it's a very
in
weak
these
point for
times that
Kamala
we're
Harris.
living in.
Fucking ABC
Mr.
is
President,
evil.
For 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past
Falsely?
couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in
No,
2020?
I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically.
But
You know
those-
that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval.
He's not pointing
I
out
got
the
almost
media being
75
complicit in
million
He
this.
should do that. That would be more effective. That's part of the Perry and the Carol.
That's why I love
was told if
Vivek,
got
by the way.
63, which was what I got
It's
in
the first thing he
2016.
does.
You can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it.
Paper
we have
ballots.
to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English.
Jim
They
Walz's
don't even
plan.
know what country they're in practically.
Yep.
And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why
I believe
they're
there was just a
allowing
bill
them
yesterday
to come into our
that would
country.
include
I did watch all of
identification to
these pieces
vote
of
that Democrats
video.
oppose. You guys can bring that up for me.
I
I
didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker.
remember the
We didn't
details.
quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
No
Republican.
judge looked at it.
And
None
so
of
they
them
said
looked
we
at
didn't
it.
have
No judge looked at
standing.
That's the other thing.
Yep.
They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The President of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many.
There already was a
facts
special
and
on Georgia. It's
statistics.
called Kill
But you
Chain on
know what?
HBO. They
That
buried
doesn't
it, where the man
matter,
hacked
because
the
we have to
machines.
solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news, and the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker, so he still believes...
He didn't say he didn't say it. He said it sarcastically, you dumb shit.
President Biden,
You dumb crooked nose shit.
But I do want to ask you about something
Unfucking believable.
You and your dramatic
from President Trump.
good night, good luck,
about this
fucking
upcoming
hairdo.
Election, just
Well, why
weeks
doesn't
away.
Trump
He said,
jump in
"When
there and say, I
win,
didn't say I
those
didn't say
people
it."
who cheated, and then he lists
they muted
donors,
him.
voters, election officials. He says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences.
She
One
just
of your
bragged
campaign's
about
top lawyers
about him
responded
being
saying, "We won't
prosecuted."
let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote." Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Because it's not scheduled.
Oh, tough question,
Donald
David.
Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that.
She's trying to get
And
under his
clearly
skin.
he is having
Don't let
a
it happen.
very difficult time processing that.
Don't take the bait.
But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past,
By the way, this is
to
toxic
upend
femininity,
the
that
will
gaslighting.
of the voters
Difficult
in a
time
free and
processing
fair
it.
election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as
bar's
Vice
so
President
low
of the
for her.
United States.
Him in Europe,
And
though.
world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost
Dumb.
because you did in fact lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
She's a
Let
great
me just say
actress.
about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline
Ended
in the
our
world.
XL,
Look,
ended the XL in North America,
Viktor Orban
expanded it in Russia. Fact
said-
check true.
He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president, but when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They
Drink.
threw him
Zinger.
out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but I'm okay with it because
Your time is
I
up.
think we're
Thank
going to
you.
do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now
Yes.
to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans
She hates
among
Jews.
them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said,
He's
quote,
gonna say
Israel
that.
has a right
That's
to
why
defend
Walz is
itself,
the
but
vice-
you added, quote, it
will.
matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do
what am
more
I
to
doing?
protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain.
Are they using
Just
Hamas
last week,
numbers?
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said
Are they
there's not a
using
deal
the
in
numbers that
making.
came from the Palestinian
President Biden
Authority or
has not
Hamas?
been able to
40,000?
break
Can we
through the
fact check that?
stalemate.
The
How
Gaza
would you
Health
do it?
Ministry, I believe it is.
Ah.
Well, let's understand how
Ministry
we
of
got
Health.
here.
I mean,
On
how many
October
men have-
7,
Well,
Hamas, a terrorist organization,
Good. I like it.
slaughtered 1,200 Israelis.
Nothing to disagree with.
Many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. and how it does so matters. Because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will
like
end
Russia and Ukraine. Isn't it funny how they want the war to end in Israel and get with Hamas,
and
but
so
not
we
Russia,
will
Ukraine?
Continue to work around
And
the
it's
clock
not
on that.
Israel.
Work around the clock.
It's
also
Hamas who doesn't
understanding
want a
that we
ceasefire.
must chart a course for a two-state solution.
Look at
And
this
in
mission.
that
You mean like they did in 2005?
solution, there must be
Handed them the Gaza
security
Strip
for the Israeli
and
people
billions of
and
dollars.
Israel, and an equal measure for the Palestinians.
So who doesn't want a ceasefire?
But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran, and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel.
You unfroze $6 billion
But
to
we
Iran.
must have a
Donald Trump
two-state
cost them over $1
solution
trillion.
where we
That's
can
what the Iranian,
rebuild
I believe,
Gaza,
Ayatollah
where the
said, or the Iranian
Palestinians
official administration
have
said.
security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up, far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel. Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation. And now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East.
Matters.
This would have never happened.
Takes
I
money.
will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine
Or
and
is
Russia
it me, or did Donald
ended.
Trump just take an
If I'm
advantage on foreign
president-elect,
policy? You
I'll
can
get it
comment
done
below.
before
That's
even
a surprise.
becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli
Wouldn't pick
people.
a Jew to be your running
he
mate.
knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is
The
well
Abrahamic
known
Accords,
that he
complete peace in the Middle East while he was
admires
president.
Wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known.
Repeating a lie
that he
on Donald
said
Trump.
of
It was a
Oh, she's
satirical
running
comment.
out, man. She's getting
he
tired.
can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well
didn't
known
under
that he said
his watch.
when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he
What?
exchanged love letters with Kim
See, the-
Jong-un.
Love letters? He
And
called
it
him
is
fat
absolutely
to his
well
face.
known that these dictators and
He's got a
autocrats
history,
are
a
rooting
successful track
for you
record.
to be
So
president
these lies
again
are
because
ringing
you're so
really
clear.
hollow.
These are all ad
They
hominem.
can manipulate you with flattery and favors.
Manipulate him so that they
And
don't
that is
invade?
why so many military leaders who you have
Barack
worked
Obama,
with
Crimea,
have told me,
Joe Biden,
you are a disgrace.
Ukraine.
That
Donald
is
Trump,
why
nothing.
We understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on
Vice
national
President
security,
Harris.
including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
And she's the one that caused it. That's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country.
Terror.
Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week. said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it, because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe?
Now stick it,
because
let her answer.
They're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic.
All right, let's bring up a brief fact check. Bring me what it is that we have thus far, and then we'll go to a quick commercial break while they do.
Let me. There's been a lot here. Donald Trump has done a pretty good job at fact checking these things. But first off, the health ministry numbers are 40,000 Palestinians, civilians killed
from the Gaza Health Ministry.
Right? That's from the Gaza Health Ministry. But according to Netanyahu, it's 16,000. Still a big number, but it's nowhere near. And you remember the hospital thing that they were saying that they bombed a hospital, didn't happen. Also, $1 trillion. We already fact checked that. It matters if Iran has money to fund these organizations, because that's how they're able to launch these rockets at people. There's several other things that have kind of come in about citizenship, about born alive bills, things like that have come in.
We'll go back to it. We'll do it as a post game roundup before we have Rob Schneider on the show. Look, this is important. This is obviously, like you said, 3-on-1, Nick. And like I told you, she's going to try and go campaign on the prosecutor versus the felon angle. She wasn't able to pivot away from that. You, Mug Club, made it happen this week with the DOJ story that if you see this through the lens of this is all the weaponization of the DOJ, which they've now admitted, and we caught on camera, guess what? You now know, hey, this is a corrupt administration who want to weaponize. And by the way, they want to weaponize these 70 to 80,000 new IRS employees against you too, just to be clear. It's not about Donald Trump. It's about you. This is an administration who doesn't want any culpability. They don't want to face any accountability. Under Donald Trump, you saw no new major wars. You saw them both under Obama and under Biden. And of course, by Biden, you mean Kamala Harris, by proxy. When she talks about people not being able to afford the homes, well, I don't know, 139% increase in average mortgage rates. A 30-year mortgage rate may suffice to sort of explain that. She is taking no accountability for her time in office. I hope to see Donald Trump meander a little bit less. He said some answers, actually, that kind of have surprised me, that have been pretty good. Have actually been surprisingly effective, but I do hope that he stays on point, because he doesn't have the luxury of being able to speak for so long, considering how they will give her more time. We're going to take a quick commercial break. You right now, Mug Club, us, going into the election live from the century, November 5th, 2024. The promo code is Trump2024 or Trump24. You get $24 off. Quick commercial break. We'll be back as they continue this.
When they come back, we will be back.
All right.
Go anywhere.
I just have to pee.
Did you know Earth is made of 71% water? Doctors recommend we drink at least 1.2 liters of water a day, just to be on the safe side. That's a lot of water. Water is key to our survival, but we don't just drink it. We have fun playing in it too. We wash ourselves in it, and sometimes we even get stuck in a storm of it. An adult's brain is 65% water, and the other 35% is gin. But maybe that's just me. My wife left me, and she has full custody of the children. That's Jeff. My kids call him Dad now. He's a lawyer. In fact, he's her lawyer. I remember when my wife used to brag about being married to a big-time commercial voiceover guy. That was a long time ago when she used to wear her ring. We used to actually have a house on the water, but now it belongs to the bank. Luckily, it was only in my name, so only my credit got ruined. Thank goodness I'm still able to afford this studio apartment that has this pot I'm currently filling with water. This pot is the only thing my wife left behind, besides pain. I'm going to use it to make some macaroni and cheese. Oh, that must be my $12 escort. I hope I'll get to experience the touch of a woman again without getting robbed like last time.
Give me your money or I'll cut ya.
Why?
people have a deep, abiding respect for the constitutional law that created this country. And some people don't. It started liberalism. Mugcluck can stop it.
Oh, I can't wait to get back in the saddle, reaping and pillaging.
Here we go. Bring up the volume. Let's go.
That's you, Bill.
Oh, yeah. Be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly, people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look, we're in for 250 billion or more because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons I don't like
Why
me
is she
as much as
shaking
I
her
like
head?
weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left, I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's... Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here...
They threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
Your time is up. Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war?
He doesn't do that to her.
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine
More money,
in this
please.
moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me.
Oh, excuse me.
The reason that Donald
That's the
Trump
equivalent
says
to
that
I'm
this
speaking,
war would
drink.
be over
How about
within
finish it, but
24
I'm a
hours, 'cause he
twat.
would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened.
Lie about Donald Trump, drink.
I actually
saying just give it up
with Zelensky
as far as territory, drink.
a few days before Russia invaded,
I'm drunk.
tried
She must have been thinking about her and the
through
mayor.
force to change territorial boundaries, to defy
Anybody
one of the
else
most
insulted
important
by her
international
trying to
rules
argue
and
foreign
norms,
policy
which is
with
the
a guy who had
importance
got a
of
great
sovereignty
record?
and territorial
I hope
integrity.
everybody out there,
And I met
please
with President Zelensky.
send money.
I
The kid's a
shared with
cripple.
him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense.
Blow your nose.
And because of our support, because of
Putin
the
attacked,
air
war still
defense,
going.
the ammunition, the artillery,
You wanna tie
the
yourself to that?
javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands
Oh, you
as
learned
an
new words. What a
independent
big
and
woman
free
you
country.
are.
If Donald
She'll
Trump
get
were
credit for
president, Putin would
That's
be
how low
sitting
the
in
bar
Kyiv
is.
right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president.
Because he forced other NATO allies to pay their fair share of their GDP. They weren't even close to 2%. For the first time, increased spending in NATO from other nations. We were footing the bill.
The ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour.
He wouldn't eat you for $1 million.
I wanted to respond to something
he's not a mayor.
And please, I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow, much happier
They're all
than he is
laughing
right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin. And she
That's
did.
weak and stupid.
And
There's
the
no
war
way to go
started
through life.
3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one.
He said you went in to negotiate.
When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a
just
leader
not domestic
who
rules and
shows
norms as they riot and burn down cities, right,
understanding
sweetheart?
that the alliances we have around
let's stick with the United Nations.
are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor
This
our
is so
enemies
insulting.
because
It's like
you
a secretary
adore
dressing down her
strongmen
boss.
instead of caring
It's
about
insulting.
democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is commander-in-chief, and the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit
like taxpayer-funded
of
transition
personal flattery.
surgeries for violent rapists
Personal
and murderers.
flattery.
Vladimir Putin, I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate.
Buckle up, Kamala.
I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen, he's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying
Fact
one
check
of the
true.
statements
Many
you
nations
made
were paying
before,
0.6% of their
if you don't pay,
GDP.
we're not
The
gonna
agreement was
protect you. Otherwise, we
2%.
would
Donald
have
Trump said,
never
maybe
got
we'll pull out of
He said
NATO
it was one of the
if
most
you guys don't start paying your fair share.
incredible jobs that
For the
he's
first
ever
time,
seen
nations
done.
said, okay, all right, we'll start paying.
Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol
13
Hill,
minutes
honoring
left.
the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Where were you?
I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
She's going to say yes.
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to
Oh.
pull out of Afghanistan.
Oh.
4 presidents said they would,
Ball
and
guy.
Joe Biden did.
Last person in the
And
room,
as a
right?
result, America's taxpayers are not paying
You know why? You're
$300
cleaning up the
million
dishes.
a day. We were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around
And
the
women
world
aren't
the first
allowed to
time this
read.
century. But let's understand
And
how
all the
we
people that
got
helped us are being
to where we
slaughtered.
are. Donald Trump, when he was president,
Mistake.
negotiated
She tried to sell it as a victory.
one of the weakest deals
She
you
blamed
can imagine.
Biden
He calls himself
and then tried to paint it as a
Even
positive.
his national
Ooh,
security
that's tough
advisor
to
said
sell.
It was a weak, terrible
And she's
deal. And here's
defending-
how it went down.
What She deal? defended the last 4 years.
He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation
The ones in
involved
charge
the
of
Taliban
Afghanistan
getting
again? Those ones?
5,000 terrorists,
Right?
Taliban terrorists
this is so
released.
insulting
And
to
get
me.
this. No, get this. And
What have you ever built
the
or done in your
president
life?
at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor
Biden knows it,
the
his first
importance
listen
of
to the
American
Patriot, will
diplomacy,
you?
where we invite and receive respected world leaders.
That's where you negotiate,
And
you idiot.
This
exactly.
former president,
Hey,
as
I'm dumping
president,
that.
invited them to Camp David because he does not again appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief
president,
with a
you haven't.
level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the
Where
work
were
that
you
we
the other
must do
day?
to uphold the strength
Please-
and the
please
respect
say that,
of the
Donald.
United States of America
Please.
around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Please,
President Trump, your
Donald.
response to her saying that you began the
Yeah,
negotiations
thank
with
you.
the Taliban.
So, if you take a look at that period of time,
Oh my God, he's not going to.
the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, you know, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had
John
no
Gotti.
agreement. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo.
Yeah.
It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, it was we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said
You
you
blew
have
it.
to do this, and they didn't do
You
it.
had the agreement, but
They
you
didn't
blew
do
it.
You
The
blew it.
agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do
I'm
what
so
they were supposed
insulted
to
by
do.
her.
And
This is
these
just
people
phenomenal
did
to
the
me.
worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this
Oh,
country.
geez.
Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until
He
a number of
didn't,
years
to
ago
be fair.
when she happened to turn black. And
Black
now she
people
wants to
agreed
be
with this,
known
by the
as
way,
black.
at least on the
I want to
internet.
ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity
Why do you
of your
believe it's
opponent?
not, David?
And I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words, so I'm
I don't
asking.
know. I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice
But
President
the
Harris,
point
your thoughts on
is,
this?
explain more.
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career,
Nice setup, David.
attempted to use race to divide the American people.
Really?
I
Like
do
Black Lives
believe that
Matter and
vast
defund the
majority of
police?
us know that we have so much more in common than what separates
White
us, and we don't
supremacy
want
is the problem in this country.
this kind
We
of
have so much more in
approach
common
Homegrown
than
that is
separates us. For
constantly
example,
trying
all of
to
us
divide
support
us, and especially
transgender
by
surgeries
race.
for
And let's
violent
remember
inmates, right? Taxpayer funded.
How Donald Trump started. He was
Yeah.
a
Show of hands.
land,
I'm a
he
bitch.
owned land, he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same
He got an
individual
award, by the way, from
who
Al
took out
Sharpton
a
in the
full-page ad in the New York
NAACP.
Times
Well,
calling for the execution
Well before he ran for president.
well before he ran for
of 5 young black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park
No,
Five,
they were not innocent. Watch the
took out a
documentary.
full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther
And you people
lies.
out
By the way,
there-
the fact that the
Black
question
president
on
of the
race and
United
politics
States.
is being asked.
What's that
shows
tell
you
you?
American
What's that
people
tell
how
you?
the media is tilted.
Want
And
better
you
than
idiots
this.
out there, they're both Democrat.
than
You're not
this.
watching this, but
Want someone
You'll
who
buy this.
understands as I do. I travel our country. We see in each other a
Just not the
friend.
border.
We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other.
You want to jail.
Oh,
people.
my God.
You want to jail people for posting on social
we
media,
please
and
just
so
have
does Tim Wall.
discourse
We'll get to
about
that after
how
this.
we're going to invest
and your
in the
boss
aspirations
declared
and
half the
ambitions
fucking
and the dreams
population
of the American
homegrown terrorists,
Knowing
meaning
that
white
regardless
Christians,
of people's
basically.
color
But you don't
or
want to
the
divide
language
people.
Their grandmother speaks. We all have the same dreams and aspirations.
Yeah,
and
we know.
want a
You wash
president
collard greens
who
in the
invests in
toilet.
those,
word
not
salad.
in hate
Stupid.
and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
I got some
President
yams
Trump,
in my
this is now
sink
your
for some
third
colored
time.
people.
He doesn't get to respond?
This is the most divisive
hell?
presidency
Here we go.
in the history of our
Please
country.
put a fine
There's
point
never
on
been
it.
anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with
not saying the
things
right-
like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park Five, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they
Don't
pled,
get
we're not
caught in that.
guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible
I don't like the
economy
way he
because
handled this.
inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time is up,
I
Lindsay.
want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly.
I know what she's going to say.
Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump.
It's actually not that
And
clear.
what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country.
Oh, a new
One
generation.
who believes
The people who lose
in
primaries
what
as
is
dead last
possible,
candidate.
One who brings a sense of optimism about
I
what
can't
we
believe
can do
America's fallen
instead
for
of
this.
Always disparaging.
They're not.
I'll
the
give you my
American
point.
people.
Well, I'm going to tell you
I
my feelings on
believe
this.
in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses
It's all part
$50,000
of the
tax deduction to pursue their ambitions, their
She's
innovation,
teaching Donald
their
Trump about
ideas,
business,
their hard
folks.
work. I have a plan,
About-
$6,000
What?
for young families for the first year
She's
of your
teaching
child's
Trump
life
how to build a
to
small
help
business.
you in that most critical stage of your child's development.
country is
I have
finished.
a plan
It's over.
that is about allowing people to be able to pursue
Word
what
salad.
has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers.
How about you
That's
just
the
don't create
kind
an
of
economy where the
conversation I
average
believe,
mortgage
David,
rate
that
over
people
30
really
years is
want tonight,
139%
as
more
opposed to a
expensive? It went up by
conversation
that
is
much in
constantly
3.5
about
years.
belittling and name-calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's
Trump,
turn back
we
to
have
policy.
to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy, please.
She
to
just said.
defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
she
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move
to
on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay. Thank
That's
you, Mr.
what her
President.
plan is until just recently.
I just need
Lindsay,
to
go ahead.
respond
No,
to
Good
the
answer.
former
Trump-
Good answer, Zinger.
Yes,
If the
I'm
media
sorry.
covers it, that is a valid
I'm sorry,
answer.
we're
I
gonna-
wish
we're
she
gonna
would
move
point
on,
out the
Vice
media
President
To what he
Harris.
has
how
said.
complicit
This
they
is
are.
now your third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare.
What?
You have failed to accomplish that.
What are we
you now
doing?
say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have
Thank
a
you for the
plan,
question,
and
Janet
can you tell us
Jackson.
what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up. They wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones, too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change
They're
it
gonna
if we
try and
come
take
up
that
with something
soundbite.
that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that.
2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private health care options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this
That's
stuff.
the first time she's ever said
to
she's
the
a gun
Affordable
owner
Care Act,
to the world.
understand,
I guarantee it.
Ever.
I guarantee
No
it.
doubt about it.
When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get
September
rid of the
10th,
Affordable Care
2024,
Act.
Kamala
60
Harris said she was a gun
times.
owner.
I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late, great John
Frank
McCain,
Sinatra.
who you have
Wee small hours
disparaged
of the morning.
as being, you don't like him, you said at the time, because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said,
My friend.
no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has
The
done
same
is
John McCain your
eliminate
party
the
made out to
ability
be a
of
Nazi
insurance
when he
companies
ran. They'll do
deny
it to
people with
anybody.
pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight. You remember what that was like?
Family Guy had a
Remember
Nazi
when
in
an
their
insurance company
quantum
could
physics
deny
episode of Parallel Universe where the Nazi had a
child had
Palin
asthma,
McCain
if someone was a
sticker.
breast
They
cancer
made
survivor,
McCain
if
out to be a Nazi.
grandparent
They
had
always do
diabetes.
it.
And thankfully, as I've been vice president, and we over the last 4 years
Oh,
have
have you?
strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was
Defending-
going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've
Bullshit.
been vice president,
Fact check,
we
lie
have
about
capped
Donald
the
Trump.
cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000
Insulin was
a year.
down
And
for the first
when
time in
I am
He's the first president in
we will
modern
do that
American
for
history
all
to lower the
people,
cost of prescription drug prices.
understanding that the
They just
value
decided
I
that they
bring
wanted to
to
do away
this
with it and kind of and then claim credit
access to
for it.
health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it.
Vice
Past his
President
prologue
Harris, thank
in terms
you.
of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a
She
lot
made
of
a mistake. Number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to give.
President
People
Trump-
are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans,
Aren't they past the
younger
debate
voters,
time?
and that's climate
It's
change.
supposed to be an hour and a half,
President
right?
Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said the climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being
It's been
jacked
happening
up.
since the beginning
You
of
ask
time.
anybody
Yes,
who has
it's called
been
seasons.
the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go.
I am so
we know
insulted.
that
Wow,
we can
this is gonna
actually
fall on
deal
deaf
with
ears.
this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as Vice President over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas
She knows
production
more than Elon
to
Musk
historic
about
levels.
fossil fuels.
We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been Vice President.
Defending.
We have invested in clean energy to the point that
I would
we
drink,
are
but this
opening
mug
up
smells like poop.
factories around the world. Donald
does?
Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing
Oh,
jobs. And
smells
I'm
like-
also proud
that's funny.
to
You
have the
say poop, I say
endorsement of the
perfume.
United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that
Oh, pretty
part of
good.
building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American
gonna look at her and go,
manufacturing and opening
"Make
up
me a
auto
BLT."
plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have,
By the way,
nothing
August,
because
this,
they refuse.
this last August,
You know,
native-born
I'm
jobs, they
listening to laugh
lost
to people
1.3
because
million,
supposedly
but they
China
gained
paid him millions of dollars.
635,000
He's afraid to
foreign-born
do it.
jobs.
Between him and his
Well, she
son,
talks about this.
They get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
So I will tell you this. What's my opinion right now, and I know we'll go to a fact check. I'm sure you have some stuff in front of you, this is kind of tonight, I think, a wash. I don't think that it really makes a huge difference in moving the needle either way. I don't think he's done a great job. He's done enough to sort of mitigate any they're showing Kanye West and they're showing Kanye West and Mike Myers right now on television. This is, though, I will say, the theme of the night is, if you thought you had a media who cared about you, they do not. They are actually doing the bidding of one party.
Yeah.
And they're doing the bidding of one party at the cost of you, the American citizen. This is remarkable. We have seen media bias, but not quite to this extent before. The amount of teaming up and dogpiling and giving her extra time to answer and not calling her to the mat. I mean, the one that sticks out to me the most, of course, is where they asked him, would you support a federal ban on abortion? He said no, as definitively as he could. What if there was some kind of a possibility to veto or to overturn right now what we see as far as Roe v. and take it away from the states? Hold on a second. I haven't spoken with JD. They called him to the mat 3 times. With her, not one follow-up on any limitations on abortion. Then to go to race and politics, it's not even in the top 5 issues for Americans right now. How much time, can we get a ticker? How much time do they spend on immigration versus race in politics? Immigration is top 3 every single time. Even a liberal publication does a poll. If they're here to serve you, they should be asking the questions that you care about most. This tonight is and I don't think that either one has done a fantastic job. You can let me know. You can comment below. But the media has done an unbelievable job in simply showing their face.
And I wish he would point that out.
Yeah.
I wish he would say, you've given me 2 or 3 follow-up questions. Who am I debating here? You can't point that out enough. I wish his handlers, or whoever prepares them, would tell him that.
Well, just think about what he's faced.
That's why I like Vivek. The first thing he would do is point out the media and wouldn't let it go.
Right.
People have to be reminded. First of all, it's an insult.
Hold on a second.
He has to embarrass.
There's a commercial on CNN right now. Yeah. Istanbul is the new cool. GoTurkey.com. Did you guys fucking hear the comments from Erdogan?
Wow.
No, what did he say?
Recently?
What did he say? Oh. I bought a duplex.
It's just crazy. Turkey. Istanbul is the new cool, while they talk about Donald Trump like he's a threat to international diplomacy.
Well, let me just throw some stuff out for you really quickly. According to the New York Times, 41 minutes Donald Trump, 35 minutes and a half Harris. But part of that is because 17 minutes from Harris has been spent attacking Donald Trump. Only 11 minutes and change.
Is that from the Times too?
This is all from the Times. All from the Times.
All right.
Yeah. So that is the dynamic so far. It's pretty close, about 5.5 minute difference. But she has spent 6 more minutes trying to attack Donald Trump than explain her plans.
Right.
Right. She spent a very large 17 minutes out of 35 trying to do that. I mean, the fact checks, I've got a document that's pretty long. We'll get to most of it later on, but manufacturing was down 0.9%, 115,000 jobs, part of an 818,000 job downward revision that they had to have. Stuff like that is just insane. And they're not bringing it up. What they're doing right now, and look, I'm going to say this right now, and you guys are going to get pissed off. She is doing well. I hate it. I don't like it. If you pay attention to this
Some
stuff,
clever plays from her.
You know that she's not answering these questions honestly, but to the average voter, she is doing way above what they thought they needed to see to have a good performance. Right now, Donald Trump has meandered. He's taken the bait a few times, but he has also done pretty well, in my opinion. I don't think this one changes many people's minds, but it is not the walk-off that it was when Joe Biden was the person on the other side. I think when they come back, they've got their closing statements. I think that's about it. But what you've seen tonight, ABC asked gotcha questions to Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Not really one to her. They asked her about, well, you had this position. You said that, but they front loaded it. Well, you said your idea, your
values haven't changed.
They front loaded it for her.
They gave her the out with the question
every single time.
The bar is so low for her, set so low for her. The fact that she didn't give us a bunch of word salads. She's got.
Well, she did early on.
Tomorrow.
I will say, if you look at
wait till you see the praise tomorrow.
The first answer to the I would say the third
suspects.
answer, dry mouth. She was nervous. She's afraid of Donald Trump. She gained confidence when she saw that she had willing participants in the media. You could see her confidence build. All right, let's go back to Crooked Nose.
Statements and Vice President Harris. We begin with you.
So I think you've heard tonight 2 very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past.
Your
and
past.
an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan.
You call half the country white supremacists.
The dreams,
we have a lot in common.
Hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together.
Who brought it up?
That is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including
with China.
Respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal
fighting force
in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do.
Like open wide for a mayor.
I'll tell you, I started
Never
my
mention
career
those 13
as a
people that
prosecutor. I
died
was a DA, I was an
Afghanistan.
attorney general, a United States
He showed
senator,
up,
and now
not
vice
her.
president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor,
You didn't
I
get
never
one vote in the
asked
primary.
a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need.
Not
right
under
now.
you.
Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
Come on, go.
So
Go.
she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack. We're not going to take fossil fuel. We're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world. And
The
from all
National
of us here
We
at
Wipe
ABC
Our
News.
Ass With It Center. All right. So, look, we have Rob Schneider coming on the show here in a little bit. We have our 7+1, by the way, failed excuses Kamala tried to use to get out of the debate. And we have Ginger Top in a few minutes. But look, let me just tell you one thing. This is, imagine you are, before we get to anything else, imagine you are Donald Trump right now. And we knew that this was the case. They say you praise white supremacists even though you condemned them. They say that you basically called for an insurrection even though you told people to be peaceful and patriotic. Then they say that you're a convicted felon because they trump up these charges and make sure that they can prosecute you and weaponize the DOJ. And then you know that the media is going to parrot that and give layups to Kamala Harris. That's what we are seeing here tonight. She wasn't able to pivot away from prosecutor felon. She still had to continue with that. And you have been able to, there's a very wide, very chasmous, if that's a term, disconnect. You know, like Willie Brown referred to Kamala Harris. There's a huge chasm between what the American public believe and what they are actually presenting to the American public right now. Mm-hmm. You know there's been a weaponization of the DOJ. Why? Because you've seen it. You've seen people from the DOJ say it. They are trying to act as though it is still legitimate and simply start with that as a premise. Donald Trump, of course, called for people to commit an insurrection. No, they didn't. Donald Trump, of course, who's facing all these charges and lost all of his cases in court. No, he hasn't. And she gets to use that as a springboard. Let me ask you this. Let's just to give you an example. Take John Jones, the UFC light heavyweight champion of the world. Okay. Put him against three people. He doesn't come out. Take Mike Tyson, put him against three people. Evander Holyfield, take Muhammad Ali. No one can take on a gang of people. Superman can't. That's what has happened tonight, not just with the moderators and Kamala Harris, but it's what's happened with the DOJ, with the media at large, with what we are seeing coming from the UN, and you know it because you've supported, and we appreciate it. And by the way, we can't do this without you. Just click that button, join Mug Club, because we are in a sprint between now and election.
It's a fight.
Use the promo code Trump24, Trump 2024. You get $24 off because we have more pieces to drop here from Mug Club Undercover. This is a systematic destruction of the institutions that Americans have known, and then the plan to gaslight you as to why don't you trust your institutions. So she did pretty well tonight. I would say tonight is a wash. I don't think it changes many minds, but imagine that you are facing that kind of an uphill battle. And by the way, you don't need to imagine it because you're facing that as a country. I don't know if you know this, but if you are an American citizen who disagrees with this administration, they'll ban you. They'll remove you. And let's go to that actually really quickly before we go to the fact check of all of this. Let's go to, we have these clips on page 17 of Tim Walz and Kamala Harris on free speech. So if Kamala Harris is president right now, all of these claims that she has made, right now we're able to fact check it. But by the way, she's part of the administration that reached out to Spotify, to quote Jen Psaki. She's part of the administration who wanted to create a ministry of misinformation effectively, Nina Jankowicz, where they don't believe in your right to speak. They don't believe in our right to fact check. That's what is at stake in this election. Let's actually run this really quickly. You actually have not only members of this administration who supported the government of Brazil in banning political dissidents. That's the first time we've seen that in our country. Members of the DNC, supporting the banning of political dissidents in Brazil. Keith Ellison, obrigado, Brazil, for banning people who criticize the administration of Brazil. That is gut-wrenchingly terrifying. But as it relates to what they will do with American citizens here, and you, and your free speech, if you are watching right now on Rumble, on an independent platform, well, just take Kamala Harris and Tim Walz's word for it. Clip First Amendment montage.
We will hold social media platforms accountable for the hate infiltrating their platforms.
I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
Because they have a responsibility to help fight against this threat to our democracy.
Your push, your call for Twitter to suspend the account of President Trump.
The privilege of using those words in that way should probably be taken from him. I say this as a former prosecutor. You have to take seriously witness intimidation. You have to take seriously an attempt to obstruct justice. You have to take seriously a threat to a witness and really to their safety and potentially their life.
If you don't police your platforms, we are going to hold you accountable.
Obrigado, Brasil.
Obrigado.
Let's do a quick fact check of everything that has taken place tonight. And then we will go to a live fact check of CNN, then Rob Schneider, and then, of course, we have our 7+1, and we still have Ginger Top later in the show.
All right, here we go. So I'm going to go backwards in reverse order a little bit here. Climate change. 30%,
Sharks can't.
37, they can get electrocuted. 37% of voters consider climate change an important issue, and yet it became one of the questions tonight. Only 37% of the voters. Let's go to manufacturing jobs. Claim Kamala Harris created 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. Truth? No, she didn't. The Harris-Biden administration only created 173,000 new manufacturing jobs. 592 were jobs just returning from COVID. Let's contrast that with Donald Trump, who created 414,000 new jobs during his term. Manufacturing was down 0.9% or 115,000 as a part of industrial, which has been seen as rising, and part of an 818,000 job reversal there. Let's go to the ACA. Donald Trump said, the Affordable Care Act, by the way, no matter what you think of it, he said he would keep it as recently as 3 weeks ago, and yet that was a question I didn't think anybody in the United States of America was even asking right now, but ABC thought that it would be a good gotcha, apparently.
No, it's 2012. Go on.
Well, that's true. Negotiating on drug prices, Trump did put a $35 cap on insulin for Part D. All the Harris administration did was basically expand a good idea from Donald Trump, which they seem to do a lot of right now. Trump did not rent to black people. That claim that was made. Trump said what we don't want to do is rent to welfare cases, white or black. So a bit of a fact check there. He wasn't going after black tenants. He was saying, look, if it's a welfare case, I'm not going to rent to those people. Can we just stay away?
Well, by the way, that's also in a city that enforces rent control in certain municipalities. And by the way, Kamala Harris wants that across the United States.
Exactly.
But go on.
Most of those people who were interviewed, by the way, on that subject said they were not aware of any discrimination. So it seems to be another trumped up charge.
Well, Kamala Harris knows it.
That's true. Also, Kamala Harris did skip the Netanyahu address. Also did not meet him at the airport because apparently they were too busy shoving an old man into a coffin so that she could run for president of the United States. She was absent from his address to the joint session of Congress on Wednesday, which is one of the only things she does is attend things like that. And
she does. She does attend. She's good at attending.
The Iran's foreign minister said that Trump's sanction cost them $1 trillion. Biden freed up $6 billion to Iran. I mean, there's just so many of these things. Gaza casualties, we talked about 16,000 from Netanyahu, 40,000 from the Ministry of Disinformation, apparently, that comes out of Gaza, their health ministry. The SAVE Act, this bill requires proof. This is a huge one. This bill requires proof of U.S. citizenship to register to vote in federal elections. Dems will not agree to put the SAVE Act in government spending bill. And basically, they're saying it doesn't matter if you click check a box, right? And actually, I think Speaker Johnson had a really good analogy. He said, look, we don't let people buy alcohol by checking a box that says they're of age. We should not let people vote by checking a box that says they're a citizen.
Seems reasonable.
That's a really, really good way to put it. Peacefully and patriotically. Again, I cannot believe.
Don't they want ID and 21 years or older to purchase a firearm?
Stephen, let me make it easier for you. You have to have an ID to check out a library book.
Oh, well, shit. I haven't done that in a while.
I know.
That's not true.
So the suckers and losers comment was made under the guise of disparaging our military. Suckers and losers that originates from left-wing Atlantic. Snopes could not verify. Anti-Trumper John Bolton, who hates Donald Trump, by the way, said it was not true. Enemy attestation, essentially, right there.
That guy has an apple duster made of gold from foreign wars.
And by the way, this is huge. This is huge. Pennsylvania, I hope you're listening. The Biden administration took over 200 actions to make it harder to produce energy. Kamala Harris never cleaned up her comment that she would ban fracking. She said that Joe Biden wouldn't ban fracking. It's a very convenient way to get out of it. But guess what ABC didn't do?
Fact checker.
Call her on any of that. There's probably
Well, let's go right now to host of the Celebrity
Daniel
Mole.
Dale, eat your freaking heart out.
Yeah.
That's a real fact.
That's a real fact check. Let's go to host of Celebrity Mole and homosexual Anderson Cooper.
He has said we all know are weak
Noted
points
homosexual.
to devastating effect.
I've got more, by the way.
Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. What the Wharton School has said is
please fact check that. Yeah, go. The worst attack on democracy since the Civil War. Let me hold on a second. Let me put that in context. The worst attack on democracy since the Civil War. She's talking about January 6th, where the only person who was shot was a protester by a rogue Capitol policeman. When she says the worst attack on democracy since the Civil War, that includes Pearl Harbor. That includes 9/11. By the way, that includes the first attack on the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
For Gen Z folk who don't remember. I don't know if you know this, Biggie rapped about it. Just so you have an idea, it wasn't even the first one. 9/11 was the attack on the World Trade Center. Yes.
At some point?
Times two. That includes the Unabomber. That includes Timothy McVeigh.
Holy cow.
That includes every mass terror incident since the Civil War.
And the Cold War, which their whole point was to get rid of us. By the way, this is breaking news right now, so let's bring this up from Caitlin Collins on X. Moments after the debate ends, the Harris campaign calls for a second debate. You know why?
So she feels confident.
She did much better than expectations.
She did better than people expect. I said that the expectations were too low.
Expectations were incredibly low. She did way better than expectations. We'll see what kind of effect this actually has on polls, though.
Yeah, I think it'll maybe have a slight boost for Harris because people were looking for a reason to not vote for Donald Trump. But between now and election, I don't think this moves the needle that much. I think
for a couple of days it will.
For a couple of days it will.
The poly market.
For people who are mad, just so you know, I'm just speaking the truth. I don't think he did as well as he could have.
No.
He he unfortunately he sort of validated their criticisms that he can't be disciplined to stay on point, to stay on message. He did sometimes. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't as laser focused as it needs to be. And the question remains to be answered. Does he have people around him who will tell him, you've got to do X, Y, Z, and you will win? Do not take the bait. He took the bait a couple of times. Of course, I get it. It's not lost on me. It was 3-on-1, and it was nothing but word salad. But he could have been better prepared for that.
Let's go to ABC, guys. Really quickly, switch over to ABC. I believe J.D. Vance is on ABC right now talking about this. So if you can bring that up in a second, we'll come back, obviously, over to these guys here on CNN in just a second. But yeah, no, I think she outperformed. I hate to say that, guys. Look, I'm not saying that Kamala Harris did a really good job based on the facts. She didn't do a good job based on the facts. She got checked at just about every turn from Donald Trump. But when Donald Trump is playing against three people, it's going to be a really hard sell for him, right? So I think he did good. He needs to do great. I don't want this to even be a close decision because she's lying her butt off. They may have gone to commercial. We'll see. Are we live on ABC right now?
Yeah. Yep. She has to fulfill the facade. He has to break it apart and then kind of fill in the blanks. And it's tough to do. Believe me, I understand it. It is tough to do, but she did better than expected. Like I said, there's always a danger to setting the expectation really, really low. And I don't know that there's any way to perform more effectively than he did against Joe Biden because no presidential debate has ever been that one-sided in American history. Nothing she said was accurate or true, but she said it in a way that maybe could sell the Americans who are looking for a reason to vote for not Donald Trump.
Yeah. And I also think she was looking for moments to be able to use in social media. I think she was looking for opportunities to be able to put stuff out and clip things. And I don't think she was really worried so much about making sure that she was accurate. She's just going to say, this guy's lying. He's going to have all these different things. And when Donald Trump meanders, it plays into that.
Yeah.
People go, oh, he's running from point to point to point. He's kind of moving around a little bit here. And he comes back a little bit angry about the attacks. He didn't parry as much as I wanted him to.
Parry, it's like there's a big difference between overcorrecting and get that shit out of here.
Yeah.
Boom. I not respecting it. When you go into the rallies and like, my rallies, she should be so lucky to have these rallies. Just go, look, what she said about rallies is ridiculous. Unless there's Cardi B or Megan Thee Stallion, no one's there. But let me go back to the economy. That's what he should do.
Let's bring up what Donald Trump did. And Stephen, I want your voice on it. It's short.
And human cream puff, Chris Christie's on ABC right now, but let's go.
Well prepared, she laid traps, and he chased every rabbit down every hole instead of talking about the things
like you do when you're hungry.
Talking about. This is the difference between someone who's well prepared and someone who's unprepared. Whoever did debate prep for Donald Trump should be fired. He was
like your
not
dietitian
good tonight at all. And what Harris did was what she had to do, which was to prove that she belonged on that stage. She has a voice that wants to try
Let's bring this down for a second because Chris Christie sucks, and let you do Donald Trump's voice here.
Donald Trump posted on Truth Social, I thought that was my best debate ever, especially since it was 3-on-1.
That was true.
People are saying big win tonight. I would never say that. That's what people say.
Except for a very big Chris Christie, apparently.
You know, again, like he says we knew that the media was going to claim he lost no matter what. I would say it's a wash. He didn't do as well as he needed to do. She certainly didn't perform as well as she should have been expected to perform. But Chris Christie is like a jilted ex-lover.
It's true. So we do have the J.D. Vance clip. I want to play that really quickly because apparently it was a pretty good answer. J.D. Vance does a pretty good job. We'll see what he says. I don't have it here, but go.
You had Kamala Harris effectively echoing platitude after platitude after platitude. The American people can't pay their grocery bills on platitudes. They can't put their kids in a house on platitudes. And Kamala Harris had a lot to say, but very little actual substance behind it for how she's going to lower grocery prices, secure the border, and make housing more affordable in this country. She's been the vice president for 3.5 years. She can't run on her record, and she apparently can't run on much of her plans either because it's just a lot of slogans and not a whole lot of substance.
Good answer.
Pretty good. I wish Trump would have said something like that.
So do I. And I know we have to get Rob Schneider on the line here in just a few minutes because they went late with the ABC debate.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we'll have him call in.
Okay. Well, let's take a quick break so we can see if we have him call in. And then, of course, we have 7+1 and Ginger Top. I have to urinate in a way that defies human comprehension. So I will be back in just a few moments, or Gerald will.
Let me stay here. I'll stay here. Throw it on CNN. I'm sure they're going to be talking about some stuff. We'll be fact checking. Go pee and come back.
All right.
Let's do it. We're not going anywhere.
Okay.
What are we doing here, huh?
I lost circulation in my right leg.
Nick, it's you and I on the ship. All right, just remember we're on YouTube for a minute. Not that I like
don't know what that means.
Punks. All right, bring up the panel really quickly on CNN. Let's see what they have to say.
Who will settle the election? He had nothing to say.
You know, I think she showed up as herself. She is a prosecutor.
What does that even mean?
She can prosecute the case. She is not afraid to hold people accountable. That is how she started her career, and she did just that.
I can't play this game anymore.
And she laid some breadcrumbs in her opening statement talking about you're going to hear a lot of lies. And every time she tripped him up a little bit, she didn't then try and respond to him. She just said, see what I told you. I told you what you were going to get.
She thinks you're stupid is what you're saying.
She also helped turn the page when she said, you're not
By the way,
running
promo
against
code
Joe
Trump
Biden.
2024 for $24 off annually. You
for
don't need to hear
Americans
too
for
much
the
about
last
what
2
this
years
person
who
is
said they
saying.
didn't want that rematch.
Make
And
sure
the last time
you
they
jump in
watched the
because this is a
debate,
fight.
It was a rematch, and she was like, guess what, folks? I'm here. Here's an alternative. Here's a path to the future. And the final thing I'll say is that I'm texting with some folks who are doing Dow testing, focus groups during this debate. Undecided voters in Georgia. First, the gender gap is massive. It's about a 20, 30-point gender gap on her responses. But one of Trump's worst answers was his response to COVID. And that was really when he started to unspiral and unravel.
Interesting.
And couldn't get back on
You'll be hearing
track.
more about that from us.
Illiterate.
Say what you want, friends, but she nailed it tonight.
Okay.
I don't know that she nailed it.
Now from the other side.
Yeah, let's see.
The other America, right? The red America. Yeah. So, John, I agree that she passed the test. Does she look presidential? Did she do a good job up there?
That's fair.
She did pass that test.
I hate that, but
she
it's
was
fair.
very light. You know, you're complaining about Trump saying you don't have details on your plan. No details provided on anything here but for her. She was very good at kind of rattling off her 2-minute answers, but then never really answered the questions. I think red America will look at this and say, I mean, I see it in the tweets. I never thought I'd say this, but CNN did such a great job on the debate and being fair, where ABC was not fair. This was a 3-on-1 at times versus Trump. They were demanding Trump be very specific on answers. But Kamala Harris, when asked about her values changing and having to articulate the differences of why she was for reparations, not for reparations, she said, they listed a very long list, and she said, I'll get to each of those. And then she didn't get to any of them.
Did she ever do guns? To see the time, who had more
Did she ever do guns,
My
though?
sense was that Donald Trump was given more
Can
time.
you guys fact check that?
Anderson, but my point is not time. My point is there was not a demand. David Muir didn't say, well, Madam Vice President, are you going to answer that question? Where he did do that with Trump. There was more aggressive follow-up on the Trump questioning than there was on...
Isn't that sort of the responsibility of the candidate?
David,
now it's the responsibility of the candidate.
It's supposed to be a neutral territory, right? And when the moderators have their thumb on the scale, Republican voters are going to watch this.
I think it was 2 very specific questions, like yes or no. Is there anything you regret about?
Would you enforce a national abortion ban?
How about this?
No.
How
about the woman moderator called Trump a liar on one fact?
Afghanistan.
Do you remember that?
She didn't say, I regret
that's
that
not true.
13 young men and women
This
died there.
Didn't ask
I
you.
regret that I did not, in the 3.5
I thought you were
years
a
as
Howard
vice
Stern
president,
fan
meet
saying
with their
Baba
families.
Booey for a second.
She didn't say that. And nobody followed up on that. And that is disgusting to me.
Look, I agree with David that you're going to hear some carping from Republicans about, this wasn't a debate, it was a trial, and there were 3 prosecutors. Definitely going to hear that. But it is a little hard to complain about the refs when you're not making your own jump shots.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the first 15
That's
minutes
fair.
of this
That's
debate,
fair.
he won. The
Hey,
questions
look,
were
let
on
me
the
ask you
economy.
guys this.
He had it right.
You're watching right now.
This is
Do you understand that we're trying to be fair and objective? Do you understand, I have a bias where, of course, I've actually endorsed Donald Trump. Of course, we've actually done undercover work to expose the DOJ and the weaponization therein. But I don't think he did as well as he needed to. And the reason why I have to be objective is because I want this country to win. Do you guys understand that? And please comment below, because sometimes people say you have an echo chamber and you're siloed. I think that you're smart enough to understand that looking at this objectively doesn't mean that we want Kamala Harris to win. Just like I think you can objectively say, hey, we need to ask questions, for example, about World War II. And say, how did we get, the Holocaust happened, how did we get to that point? Oh, the Treaty of Versailles. How do you get to a point where a nation feels so browbeaten and ashamed of their identity that they will pick a strongman like Hitler to commit these atrocities against the world? I think that's a valid question to ask to avoid it in the future without saying that, for example, Winston Churchill was the chief villain in World War II.
Stupid.
And Hitler wanted to end war. Please tell me, because I'm someone who says there isn't nearly as much nuance in the world as the left wants you to believe. There's far more black and white. But I think you're grown-ups, right? I think you're grown-ups and you understand that a 7+1 is not a fact check and a fact check is not a 7+1. I think you guys are smart enough. But that's just me. That's just me. I think that you're adults. I think you're able to consume content. I think you're able to see that we make all of our references publicly available every single day to do your own research, and you're not so dumb that you have to say, well, if one thing isn't true, then nothing in the world is true. That's what I'm most proud of with this audience, and that's who I want to share election night with November 5th, 2024, win, lose, or draw. That's why we have journalists on the ground in every major city of every major swing state. That's why we have the electoral integrity map. That's why between now and election, we will be dripping Mug Club undercover so that you see the institutions that exist and why they have actually forfeited your trust. And none of it happens without you clicking that button, joining Mug Club. Hey, if we don't provide enough value, then please don't. But if we do, and you want this to continue, and you're frustrated with people out there feeling the need to be a cheerleader or to be a partisan hack, and you want something different, that's what we try and provide. We're open about our biases, but we also try and call balls and strikes.
All right, so a couple of things are happening right now. Josh Shapiro, the person not chosen for whatever reason, I'll let you.
Kamala couldn't look in the eye?
Yeah, exactly. He's being interviewed right now, but the Chiron said that Taylor Swift has endorsed Kamala Harris. Like, that's a
Of
shock.
course, that was their trump card.
Right, exactly. So this is interesting from David Chapman. The Harris campaign is asking for another debate, as I told this person. If that happens, Harris is down and one debate isn't enough. The campaign clearly doesn't believe she did enough to win tonight. I think that's possible.
Who said that?
This is from David Chapman. He's a political analyst, right? So I think that, and this is kind of funny on Taylor Swift in a second here. It's not the win you think it is, Taylor. So basically, I think what's happening right now is that there are two camps. One is saying she needs another debate to kind of finish the job. I think another perspective on this, and this is the one I want to fight from, is that she thinks she did so well, she can do better. Because she's like, oh, I saw the guy, I met him, I did well, I'll do it again and do even better as far as getting people to see, like, that's not a one-off.
Right.
I think that we have to be in a position that Kamala Harris is going to outperform. And listen, Donald Trump, I think, made a mistake. She's a stupid person.
Yes.
That's what he said. You are lowering expectations of your opponent. You did a better job with Joe Biden. Do a better job with Kamala Harris. You don't need to go out and say she's stupid before a debate. You need to go out and build her up so the expectation level is so high that when she comes out and fails, it absolutely looks the part, because expectations were basically if she strings a sentence together, kind of like Joe Biden when he gave the State of the Union, and he did it and everybody looked at it. So here's Taylor Swift. So Taylor Swift endorses Kamala Harris after this debate, signed a childless cat lady. So let me just say, Taylor, the fact that you're one of the biggest stars in the world, a pretty person, very talented, very
You're
rich.
a childless cat lady by choice.
Your childless cat lady's not a win.
No.
Well, she
Just making sure you
influenced
understand that.
if 14-year-old girls are voting. It's very important.
Fantastic. Look, they're going to point to that and be like, see, we got another celebrity. I assumed you had them all.
First of all,
because they're
lefties
soulless beings for the most part. Rob Schneider's not. We're still waiting on Rob to be able to join here.
Yes. Good segue. Good segue.
In just a minute.
Gerald, Mr. Segway.
Hey,
the Segway Meister.
Segway off a cliff.
Yeah.
Segway Rama.
And actually, before we do go to Rob Schneider, so look, this is my fault. I apologize. Not everything can be a gem. My understanding was tonight that they were going to be pro-prop, not no-prop. My mistake, but we already have the man on retainer.
We do, yeah. And so
we actually go now live to our prop comedian correspondent, Ginger Top. All right, Ginger Top, let's cycle through this. Can you hear me and see me okay?
Yes, thank you for having me. I've got a lot of fun stuff for you.
Okay, I hear you have some funny props for us, which at this juncture, let's just do it.
Yeah, I got a lot of fun stuff for you. Let's start over here in our case. I got Donald Trump, Because he's King Kong tonight. That's what I got.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
I had this here for a different reason, but now it's for Taylor Swift fans. They all look like this.
Oh, okay.
Except with a big old body. Here
All
it
right.
is.
Thanks, Ginger Top.
All right, that's gone. All
Okay.
right. Everyone was all talking about how Kamala wanted to have a stool. She wanted a stool to appear taller.
Yes,
I got
they
her.
did talk about
I got
that,
her
yeah.
a California stool. Bang. Look at that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I get
it's,
it. Yeah, that's
pile poopy with a flag on it. That's
It
very, it reminds her of home.
Yeah, it reminds her of home. I get it. California stool, it's poop.
Oh, we got this for Trump. It's when you need to get a little bit of an inside information, a little bit of statistics to show because your opponent's not giving any. Bang! Look at this little earpiece, little Trump earpiece.
Okay.
It's got a little blood on
I
it.
get it.
I've been
Ginger
shot,
Top.
but I'm still okay.
Doesn't seem very not subtle. Do you have anything else for us?
Oh yeah, these are the flowers that the ABC guys were giving themselves all night.
Okay.
And
Yep.
then
All
we
right.
keep hearing about these black jobs. What is a black job? What's a black job? How do I get a black job? With a black job application, of course.
Okay.
Look at this.
Wow.
Yeah, check that out.
That's not as offensive as I expected, but aggressively mediocre.
Yes.
He
looks like Bob Newhart,
Yeah.
secretary transitioning.
I might need a new heart. I was told I got diabetes last
All right.
week, so-
Okay. You know what, Tim? Cut it.
Just
This
let's
is
get
not-
away from that.
Yeah, cool, man. All right.
I'm curious what the panel here is saying on Chris Wallace, the voice of reason.
Chris Wallace, Dana Bash, and a talking Christmas tree.
From being sued by Nixon's housing department or Department of Labor for not renting to black tenants.
We already fact-checked
to
that.
the Central Park 5.
Black or white.
To birtherism, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, and
Does
again,
anyone
he took the
believe
bait
that
every
the Central
single
Park
time.
5
He's
are innocent? Is that still a
literally there
thing?
defending the indefensible in
All
terms
right.
of his calling for the
Nope.
death penalty for the
I
Central
guess it's
Park
just
5.
me.
But my point is,
He said if they
she actually
pled
discussed
guilty.
it.
If
I
they
don't
if
think
they
that
were
she was
guilty.
waiting for a bigger audience, 100 million people watching tonight or whatever.
He missed some
I
easy
think
ones.
that Trump continues to make inroads with black men, and she felt like she probably had to staunch some of the bleeding on that issue.
I think both can be true. I thought her response to my question was, same old stuff. Next question, she was ready to say something.
She looks like a hockey
pithy
player who got
and
checked
kind
against
of
the
back
shift
of the
boards
hand,
and
like
lost
the
a cheekbone.
blow-off, and move on. But in the back
What was
of
his
my
name
mind, I
in
wondered
Colorado?
if she was
Avalanche
holding
Detroit.
her,
What was the name of the guy who got hit by
her best stuff
Lemieux? Claude Lemieux.
for this to be
But who did he hit?
with him
That's what she looks like.
on the debate stage. So, but I think that could be also true that she's making inroads with black men.
What do you think?
I thought she said it because
that when she was young.
his response
say it was
was
Igor
he didn't
Lariat.
care.
No,
right?
it was
He didn't
not.
care about the race or she can be
It was a
whatever
redhead
it
Irish
is
white
she
guy.
wants to be, which essentially
McCarthy.
was not
I
only
like when she
condescending
said
and patronizing,
his fans
but
leave early at a
also
rally.
demonstrably inaccurate
Draper.
based on the statements that she actually laid out as to his concern for race and gender and beyond. And I think that she was waiting to address
She
that
can be
particular
whatever
moment
she wants
in a
to be
way
is now
not to
racist?
choose her audience, but to
He
respond
can't
to what
answer
he
the
had to
question
say.
in
And I
any
think
way possible that
the
gets him
idea
in
of
any
her
safe
talking about
place.
her race and her gender.
She was saying she was
Which are
black
both
to go
quite
pander to
obvious
black
the
voters. She was
American
saying
voters
she was
and
Indian to be the first
think in many
Indian
ways that is an
congresswoman,
attempt
senator,
for him
sorry,
to try to
that came
bait her to suggest
now.
that is Trump
Well, when he said, I don't really care what she is, she can be whatever she wants to be. It's not condescending. She switched because she's mixed. That's
Yes.
fine.
Well, it's because she's a panderer.
Everything is
not
racist.
because she's mixed. It's because she
But
panders.
he has
depending-
to say it like that, like you just said it.
Yes.
When she's in front of an Indian crowd, she tends to be Indian.
That's my point.
When
But
she's in
he
front of an
doesn't-
Indian crowd, she's Kamala Vindaloo. When
not
she's in
out-
front of a black crowd, she's Kamala Big Mama, Big Mama's house.
How can you? She goes at rallies. His supporters get bored and leave early. How can you miss that one? You go, what? We had a shooting and nobody left.
Yeah.
Somebody died at my rally and people didn't budge.
You know
what
he
are
should
you
say?
talking
We had a
about?
shooting
It's a
at one
very
of my
good
rallies
answer.
from comments like yours comparing me to Hitler.
Well, that was fine. Throw that into.
He did okay. He did okay with that. He came back to that in a little bit.
But how do you
you're
not
right.
say that?
Well, remember, that's what I was saying. The
Leave early.
The
It was a
parry,
shooting.
quick parry and counter. He
Very.
spends too much time in defense because, he gets riled a little bit.
She called him unpatriotic at one point.
Yeah, she said she was the candidate who supports our military.
And he doesn't go, where were you a couple weeks ago when we were celebrating the lives of these 13 soldiers we lost under your
Did you
watch?
see they did it today, by the way?
But why didn't he say that?
Yeah.
I mean, these are fastballs down the middle.
Yeah. You're right.
And he was fouling them off.
Let's see if Chris is doing anything.
I think you're right.
Who said he wants to do it. He knows he shouldn't. He's been told that being forward-looking is a much better strategy
Who's
for
smoking in
success.
the ladies' room?
Is this a
I
World
took
Star
to mean-
hip hop video?
I'll probably do it. Despite our best advice.
didn't change the batteries.
You know what? He did do it.
Can we talk about Taylor Swift?
Yeah, let's talk about this for people.
Oh,
Let's talk about
I think, yes,
Swifties.
childless
cat lady.
Give it a more fulsome.
Doesn't even look like
Taylor
her.
Swift on Instagram.
By the way, let me ask you this. Do you honestly think that Taylor Swift is going to be happier 15 years from now because she decided to exclusively date A-list celebrities and throw them to the curb rather than have a fulfilling life as a wife, mother, and by the way, also successful career woman? Do you honestly think that Taylor Swift is going to look back on her life and say, I wish I banged more famous singers and actors and athletes? I'm telling you, it's not fulfilling, and this comes down to a fundamental difference in worldview. It's not about feminism and the idea that you should be in the kitchen pregnant and barefoot. It's about what is it that actually leads to not pleasure, but happiness. For example, I bet you that banging a new Dallas cheerleader every single night would bring you great pleasure, but would it bring you happiness?
Yep.
No. Well,
Absolutely.
Screw you, Nick.
Some of us are very shallow. Let me tell you something. If I had a genie that came out of a bottle, that's the first thing I'd wish for.
Let's ask other people then.
Fuck cancer, feeding people, homeless. Give me a couple cheerleaders. Even Oregon State. I saw a girl there. She had a limp, but beautiful legs. I would, oh my goodness. I don't know what to say.
all right.
Okay, so
Shiggy, you want to
Now,
start
be
again?
But I'm shallow. Look, I'm shallow.
Okay, but let's take in that scenario. Taylor Swift is one of the cheerleaders. She would not be happy with her life's decisions. Do you think
she's banging me? No.
Well, because she knows Chris Christie's next. According to this.
Yeah, by the way, Travis Kelce's brother, is it Jason, the one with the beard?
Yeah.
He just retired. His wife is hotter than her. Than
Well, yeah,
in my opinion.
You mean she doesn't look like Casper's cousin?
Well,
Let me
Taylor
do
Swift's a
something really quick.
beautiful woman.
We're going to see a lot of this. Let me show you what The Onion put up about the comment on the rallies that we just talked about a second ago. Fact check. The people don't leave my rallies from Trump. True. They're carried out in body bags.
Oh, my gosh. And I thought it was too soon to make a joke about Georgia public schools.
I don't
Which
even
we didn't
get that.
allow to
You were
make air
right.
because we were trying to be tasteful.
You were
and they're
right.
making jokes about a guy. Look, and by the way, I actually appreciate that The Onion had the guts to do that.
Why
a man
was
died.
Why was that gutsy? It was anti-Trump.
Well, I'm saying a man died. A man died. In any other scenario, they would say it was tasteless, it was tone deaf. A man died on that night. On that day. But they don't care because
I
guess
don't
what?
either.
You don't matter. What matters is 20,000 Haitian migrants to Springfield, Ohio. I almost said Missouri. There are so many Springfields.
No, it's not.
What matters is between 15 and 22 million illegal immigrants who come here to leech off of our public services.
Yeah, but
it's about turning law-abiding citizens into criminals and criminals into voters. You're seeing that.
Can we check on the dog eating facts and the cat eating facts? Can we get one verification?
Well, what do you think? You think the local PD wants to investigate that?
Well, it didn't come from the local PD.
No, it came from the people, but then they said local authorities said that's not true.
It was like a chairman or a councilman.
Well, naturally, he's got to cover his ass.
Of course.
But
It's like the mayor from Jaws.
I'm just asking, and here's another thing we haven't even talked about. You guys are watching clips on the internet today, AI. You don't even know you're watching AI.
Right.
You don't even, they show a guy hitting 3 baskets from Senate court.
Yeah.
I even question that. But then they
Right.
show like a
I can do
cat
that.
making a Caesar salad when he's
Right,
blindfolded. I mean,
I saw a video
the people are going, that cat's unbelievable.
I saw a video where Taylor Swift had an ass.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Not true
you have no
at all.
idea.
AI.
So I think they're missing the point too. Like they're focusing on the fact that there are cats and dogs and stuff like that. And of course, that's a shocking thing, right?
Yes. Right.
Why don't you go watch the video of a homeowner saying these people are out in front of my house, these people are in my yard, they're threatening me,
Or
I
the
don't feel
irrefutable fact
protected.
that one of them ran into a school
I'll
bus.
tell you
They
why.
killed a person. There's
Killed
been
a person.
accident after accident after accident. How about that?
58,000 citizens in Springfield, Ohio, 15 to 20,000 Haitian migrants in the last year and a half.
Yeah.
Okay? Those are the numbers.
Unfortunately,
Oh, Daniel
population-
Dale's fact checking. Can we go to it real quick?
Okay, we have to go to this
I'm
really
sorry,
quickly.
Nick.
Sorry,
I'm
Nick,
sorry.
but hold that thought.
Please, what am I even doing here? Go ahead.
33 false claims, 33. By contrast, by, again, a preliminary
Look
count,
at this.
Vice President
Look at
Harris
this.
made at least one false claim, though she added at least a few misleading claims and a few more that lack
Look
key
at this.
context.
Look
I
at
think a
this.
lot of Americans say, well, all politicians lie. No major presidential candidate before Donald Trump
Pardon my
has
language.
ever lied with this
If
kind of
Donald
frequency.
Trump said,
A
you
remarkably
suck
large
cock,
chunk of
you would say that was a
Right,
misleading
right,
statement.
right.
like little exaggeration, political spin.
He clearly
a lot of his
takes it
false
in the
claims
ass.
were untethered
Dunlop,
to reality.
you suck
On abortion,
cock.
saying every Democrat wanted Roe v. Wade overturned.
But you know how much-
Actually, more than 80% of Democrats
We talked about
supported
this.
Roe.
Can you
On
bring it up
crime,
just a little
saying
bit in
it's
the
through
room?
Roof, though it's actually sharply down since early 2023.
This is gonna
it's now
give her a
lower than
bump.
it was since Trump left office. On healthcare, saying he's the one who saved Obamacare, the law he actually repeatedly tried to overturn. On Kamala Harris herself, saying that a Howard University grad, Black Law Students Association president, had claimed that she wasn't black. At
She
one
claimed
point.
she was Indian.
Frankly, I don't have enough time here to run through each specific.
You should,
Trump false
Daniel.
claim.
It's
I
your
urge
job.
people to
No,
go
you don't
to
have
our
enough time to
CNN
run to
website or our
CVS
app
before they
to
close
get
and get yourself the
detailed
prep
fact
pill.
checks
You
on
see how
this
it's not
and a
even
whole
about
bunch more.
politics?
For now, let's dive into
It's
one
about personality, how you were born, whether
Yeah.
you look at the world as a victim or you were bullied. That's what this has turned into, this country.
Yeah.
Got nothing to do with politics, skin color. It's whether you're a victim or not.
We live in a
Fucking
country.
People are buying into it.
We live in a country where a man reduced inflation to its lowest in modern American history, where the man increased the median average salary to the most that we have seen in modern American history. The man who oversaw an economy and a country that saw no new major wars, which is the first time in our lifetime, if you're a millennial or if you're Gen Z, in modern American history. And he gets to be fact-checked by a size -14 neck.
That's right. Look at his actions, not his words.
Yeah.
You see what I'm
Concave
saying?
Neck. I didn't even think that was possible.
It is concave.
Look at his actions. Look
Let's
at
go
his
to Daniel real
resume.
quick.
Vance, the vice presidential candidate who himself had promoted
Shut
these
up, you
claims,
goo gobbler.
acknowledged this morning that the quote rumors might turn out false.
Shouldn't you be
although
stealing
he still
luggage at an
encouraged
airport?
people to spread these cat memes. Now I'll note that Trump himself
Should be sticking
added
a
dogs
turkey
to the
baster at his
equation.
throat.
They had not even been part
And
of
ducks.
these viral nonsense
Don't
rumors
forget the
before.
ducks.
Now let's look at one false claim that Vice President Harris did make about the economic
One.
situation that the Biden-Harris administration was left by
How
Trump.
dare you, you maggot.
Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression.
Wait till they
what
come
we
back.
have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess.
Wait till they come back.
So the
You won't even
Biden-Harris
give Trump
administration
full
was
credit.
not actually left the worst unemployment since
Watch,
the Great
watch.
Depression. They were left a 6.4% unemployment rate in January 2021. That was certainly elevated by recent standards, pretty high, but it was significantly down from the 14.8% level it reached early in the pandemic. So it was already improving at the time the Biden-Harris administration took office, and that 6.4% level was the highest since the
In
Great
that
Recession.
same
So
claim,
in the
she
last
talked
20
about
years,
deaths.
not
In
going
that
back
same claim,
Yeah.
she listed a bunch of facts that are absolutely, and by the way, immediately refutable. There are more deaths under Biden than under Donald Trump. Donald Trump, whether you like him or not, Operation Warp Speed, that's why you have the vaccine. He didn't try and force it on you, but gave you the choice. And then by the way, Kamala Harris said she wouldn't take a vaccine if it was developed under
Like
Donald
Donald Trump.
You may not remember that. She's trying to take credit for things that he has done and then absolve herself. When they asked her about, what was it they asked her about? It wasn't Afghanistan, where she said, well, I know that was Joe Biden's decision that he made. And she tries to absolve herself of any responsibility while
About the
taking
pullout
credit.
from Kabul.
I don't know. Was it Afghanistan? I can't remember. You guys-
She did say that.
I thought it was about
Okay.
the pullout.
Yeah.
She supported Biden's decision.
Yeah. So we had roughly 18 fact checks, and that's being very conservative.
Yes.
For Kamala Harris, I'm lumping them into categories.
Mm-hmm.
We could literally go into each one of these categories and give you a couple from each one, but 18 fact checks about what she said, and Daniel Dale found one.
Yeah, but when you
From
say
a statement where she made at least 3 false statements in just that one answer.
That's what I'm saying. You said 18 fact checks. You mean 18 times she lied?
Yeah.
18 times
That we had,
she
that we
said
listed.
something
I'll say that,
was
yes.
not true. Right?
Right.
Donald Trump didn't get investigated for not renting to black people alone. It was black and white.
Right.
That's context that was needed.
He
That
got
didn't
an award.
lie.
And another one. See, he could have said, I got an award from the NAACP. Google it.
Black people like me because I actually do stuff for them instead of just tell them what they want to
He
hear.
could have come out and said, you've never done anything in your life.
Yeah.
I built half the skyline in New York City. The fact that we're even debating is, seriously,
Yeah.
No, I get it.
I can't believe that.
Frustrating.
She's a paper champion who's been created by the media, and this is also tiresome. Which brings us, by the way, she wanted to dodge this debate along with the debate last week on Fox News, which is why Donald Trump held a town hall. Which
Right.
brings us to this week's 7+1.
You forgot to find in the chamber.
And this week it's 7+1 failed excuses Kamala tried to use to dodge the debate, and because he's the most angry in the room, and rightfully so. Number 7, Nick DiPaolo.
I'm angry? Oh, for Christ's sake.
No, we all are.
Okay. I couldn't get my Philly accent down in time.
Well, she needs time to get that appropriate. 7+1 failed excuses from Kamala Harris that she tried to use to dodge the debate. Number 6, my best friend's sister's boyfriend's brother's girlfriend heard from this guy who knows this kid who's going with this girl who saw Trump pass out at 31 Flavors last night, and I thought the debate was off.
That's a lie. Yeah, that didn't happen. Yeah.
Fact check that.
7+1 failed excuses from Kamala Harris to avoid this debate. Number 5, I had an argument with my babysitter. She said I don't have kids, which seems like she should have known
she
that.
She should be the first person to know that.
Yes.
I mean, that's helpful.
Since this is kind of in your wheelhouse, the number 4 excuse, Captain Morgan.
I did one interview and my party got scared, so she said they're moving with your auntie and uncle in Mumbai.
Oh, hey now. Hey.
Why is it Mumbai? I mean,
well, why wouldn't it? It used to be Bombay.
It's true.
Yeah, it's true. I understand why it's confusing. Used to be Bombay. It's Mumbai now. Number 3, excuses from Kamala Harris to dodge this debate. So if we want to talk about debate, okay, first we have to understand what defines a debate, right? What is a debate? A, debate is discussion between 2 or more parties. B, they ask you questions. And C, you have to answer them. So basically, that's wrong.
What?
That almost seems like drinking the word salad.
Really.
As far as
I feel like we have to drink because that's said in her voice.
Yeah, it's said in her voice. 7+1 failed excuses Kamala used to try and dodge this debate. Number 2, Nick DiPaolo.
I caught COVID or monkeypox, whichever one we're pushing this week.
Well, she shouldn't say that.
I
You
don't
gotta
think
keep
she can catch
the curtain.
monkeypox without some real effort.
And the number 1, actually, this seems right up Nick's alley. Number 1 excuse Kamala Harris tried to use to avoid this debate. Nick.
It should be. I wrote it. I got a nasty yeast infection from using AOC's toilet.
Well, I don't know if that's how they transmit.
I read something.
I'm not an epidemiologist.
I read something
but I
about
don't think that's how it works. And the +1, actually, Tim Walz's horse ate my debate prep. That's been this week's 7+1.
Wow.
You forgot Stefan in the chamber.
So,
by the way, Rob Schneider is actually counting his tips.
Is he counting his tips, which he shouldn't do in public?
Bad internet connection, and
so we do. And I had the talk boy and everything ready for Rob Schneider. If we don't have him on, of course, we'll
try to. We can't get him right now.
We'll have him on next time,
Yeah.
or we won't.
I mean, he has a lot of time around.
I thought
Donald
he
Trump
could do it
at the plaza.
Anybody, you always get on me because movies, and I stopped going to good movies.
Right, but you catch all the references.
I catch.
We need you,
not
Cedric.
from you, but I'm excited about the second Joker movie because I love the first one.
Really?
Anybody else?
I like the first one too, except Lady Gaga's in it.
No, I know, but
The second one.
she can act.
Yeah, she can act, but she has a side profile like the debate moderator tonight. David
She got an
Muir.
ass like an orange. I don't mind. Yum, yum.
I don't know. It went from nectarine to orange.
know.
Is that how you gauge them through citrus fruits?
Yes, I do. Well, you.
You've got an ass like a Maya lemon.
That seems too specific. I don't know what to do with that.
It's either an ass or it's a cure for scurvy.
Yes.
It's a citric. It's a citric-based metric.
It is. It is.
She's
Also
got an
a
ass
great
like a
way-
lime, a kiwi fruit. She's got tits like a coconuts. Come on out, Iowa. You're gonna love it.
And now we're veering out into other references as far as fruits.
I am. I'm in shock.
Freaking Daniel Dale blocked somebody. Is it me?
What?
Is it me or is it you, Steven? I need to know.
Well, I didn't do anything.
Tell me who it is.
I've been here this whole
Tell
time.
me. I've done a lot of things.
Is it
Tell
because
me
I
who
called
it
him a
is.
noted homosexual? That's a
He blocked
compliment.
me. Okay, good.
You think he'd want to be noted as a homosexual? He just blocked me.
You know what? I think we need to try harder. Let's get him to block me.
Yeah, that's the name
Don't
of his.
violate rules.
Try Harder. That's the name of his home movie.
Oh.
On Fact Check
It's called Try Hard. It's a spin-off of Diet.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Guy's a cock block.
To himself.
Try Hard another day.
All right, look.
That guy's AIDS with glasses.
To be fair, he's only HIV positive, which may not transition into the full.
I gotta find out after the show how many times I get dumped. I
know.
I think I got.
I
Dumped
know
more
you
than,
do.
I think I got dumped more than you.
I'm like,
that might be true, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
You want to go to CNN for a second, or do you?
Let's go to CNN for a second. But by the way, Nick DiPaolo is going to be at the Bridgeview Center Theater in Ottumwa, Iowa on November 9th. Funniest man alive. Go see him while you still can. This is the OG. If he could have kept his mouth shut, then people wouldn't be so mad at him. But he's always been this guy. You can go back and watch his sets in the early 1990s and on Comedy Central, and you can see people going like, Nick, why do you have to be so truthful?
Some of my sets are in black and white.
Yeah.
Listen,
yes. True.
Also, September 27th, Wise Guys in Jordan's Landing, Utah. Hey, look at what's her name?
Harry
Caitlin
Farm
Collins.
lady.
Sometimes she looks like a lady, then other times she looks like Joaquin Phoenix.
Yes, exactly.
About the debate. It's a little bit hard to hear him, but we have sitting with us his running mate, Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio. Who's also been watching that debate. Jake was just talking about what it means when a candidate comes into the spin room after a debate. Is that a sign of a good debate or a bad debate in your view?
Look, I think with President Trump, it's not a sign of either, frankly.
Tell
I
us,
do think he had a
JD.
great debate. We can sort of hear the background noise here. But look, I think with President Trump, he had to be sort of talked out of coming to the spin room after the first debate because he really wanted to. And my guess is that he really wanted to come then. He really wanted to come now. This time it worked out. And look, he loves to talk to reporters because he loves to talk to the American
Trump's
people.
in the spin room.
And I think it's been a consistent theme of his campaign is going anywhere, going into hostile or friendly media, talking to people, answering questions, and trying to make his case. He's going to keep on doing that, whatever the format.
Did tonight go how you wanted it to go in terms of Harris clearly trying to get under his skin, talking about crowd sizes, talking about former officials like John Kelly and Mark Esper and others? I mean, I heard from some Trump advisors who said he took the debate too much. Do you believe that?
No,
Took
look,
the
I
bait,
think
you
what
meant
we saw
say.
from Kamala Harris was a lot of platitudes.
Wolfman.
It was a lot of plans that had no real substance behind them and no real precision behind them. And what is most interesting, and it's really the sort of microcosm of this entire race, is Kamala Harris has a record. Donald Trump has a record. Donald Trump is proud of his record and is running to it. Kamala Harris is running away from her record and pretending that somehow her term as president is going to be radically different from her term as vice president, but she can't actually articulate why. And in fact, to the extent that she articulates it at all, it's by running away from positions that she clearly held just a few years ago or even a few weeks ago.
So why didn't Trump push her more on that? Because that is what we
I
hear
agree.
from you every day on the
Caitlin?
campaign trail is talking about her reversals. He did not
Lot of
really
pressure
talk
on the
about
guy.
why haven't you done what you're saying you'll do until his closing
Good question,
statement.
Dr.
Do you
Jekyll.
think he should have done that sooner?
Well, I think he did. I mean, he did it in the closing statement. He also really hammered her on her inconsistencies, right? This is a person who said she wanted to ban fracking. Now she says she doesn't. She wanted to defund the police. Now she said she doesn't. She wanted a secure border. I thought he really did, actually. On three issues in particular, I think he was very focused on hammering Kamala Harris's inconsistencies with her record, what she says now versus what she said even a few weeks ago in some cases. It was on the border, it's on fracking, and it's on defund the police. That was clearly what he's most focused on, and I think it's not surprising because those are three of the issues that the American people care the most about. I mean, look, this is a person who was to the far left of her own party and now is trying to pretend that she's effectively Donald Trump. My favorite line of the night is when he said she's going to don a MAGA cap and pretend that she agrees with me on everything. I think the American people are too smart to be fooled by Kamala Chameleon acting to be somebody that she's clearly not.
Yeah, she kind of smirked when he said that he was going to send her one. On abortion, though,
Who gives
Trump was
a
asked
shit,
if he would
Wolfman?
veto a national abortion ban. You have said that
Wolfman
he would.
Jack.
He said that the two of you have not talked about that you weren't talking for him. Have the two of you not talked about that?
So we haven't talked about a veto, but it's clear that Donald Trump doesn't.
No, we
believe
talk more
in
than
a
you and your
national
father,
abortion ban.
Caitlin.
He said that his policy is to let the states decide majority
First
of
one I've
abortion
seen who has a
policy in this
toupee on her
country.
elbow.
And so I think that really it's a difference of semantics. He thinks it's absurd to even talk about vetoing a piece of legislation that has no chance of being brought. I think it's a totally reasonable point. But again, the main substantive issue is Donald Trump believes that abortion should be a state policy, and Kamala Harris fundamentally thinks that abortion should be funded by taxpayers right up to the moment of birth. And it was interesting that the ABC fact checkers or the moderators,
This
who,
guy is so
frankly,
good.
were just helping Kamala Harris in the debate.
I love him.
That they
He's
said
fantastic.
That no state.
That's why the media has to make him
supports
out to be
abortion
weird.
up to the moment
He's
of
too
birth.
effective.
Her own running
Unbelievably
mate has
effective.
supported legislation that would remove the requirement
Now
that
watch the
doctors
movie.
provide life-saving care to babies who survive botched abortion. So I think his point is Democrats are the real radicals on this issue, and whatever cover the moderators provided. The truth is the truth, and their record's pretty out there.
On this question specifically, Trump could have said yes, he would veto a national abortion ban.
He said he
Why
would
did he
not
take
sign
the
a
opportunity
national
to do so
abortion
when you
ban.
know how
He said that.
Then you asked about a veto.
I didn't hear him say that. That's what I was trying to get clarification
The
on.
first
Went
question
around
he
the-
answered and said,
Did he? Okay.
no, I wouldn't sign a national abortion ban. And they said, would you veto one?
States Congress, if it did, it would maybe get 10% of those
But then
bodies
why
to
did you
vote
say
for it.
before that he would veto it? Why didn't you
What
say
I
that
said-
before? You
what-
didn't
what
say
I
it was
said is-
hypothetical.
Well, Caitlin, what I said explicitly is that Donald Trump doesn't believe in a national abortion ban. He doesn't. And the question of how far he would go is to me like a semantic thing that doesn't actually make sense. It's an absurd proposition. It's never going to happen. And I think what President Trump is saying is, I don't like to deal in these absurd hypotheticals. It's not going to happen, and he's been clear that he doesn't support it.
Well, I
doing
think
a
there may
great
be some
job
women
for
voters
Trump.
who would have liked for him to answer
Cleaning up
that
some,
question.
right?
The
Yeah.
other thing that he brought up, which I was kind of surprised by, I guess I would say, is he
Because my
brought up
earpiece is
this
telling me to be
misleading
surprised?
false claim that you yourself have talked about in recent days about Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, abducting people's pets and eating them. Which
I heard somebody
officials
try to
have
eat one of
said
your forearms.
is
I
not
thought it was a
true. You
cat.
yourself acknowledged it may be false on Twitter. You still told people.
Yeah, they middled it and said,
we are
Siamese, if you please.
People watching. Why push something that's not true?
Well, first of all, city officials have not said it's not true. They've said they don't have all the evidence.
They
But
said
we've
they have
heard,
no evidence.
We've heard from a number of constituents on the ground, Caitlin, who both firsthand and secondhand reports
Yeah, the citizens.
saying this stuff is happening. So they very clearly, meaning
let's
the
not
people on
believe
the
the
ground
people.
dealing with this, think that it is happening. And I think that it's important for journalists to actually get on the ground and uncover this stuff for themselves.
go.
When you have a lot of people saying, my pets are being abducted, or geese at the city pond are being
Yeah, we may or may not have some people doing some digging on the ground in Ohio right now.
Again, whether those
Join Mud Club.
exact rumors
We can do more of it.
turn out to be mostly true,
Hope they're
somewhat
Haitian.
true, whatever the case may be. Caitlin, this town has been ravaged by 20,000 migrants coming in.
There you go.
Healthcare costs are up. Housing costs are up. Communicable diseases like HIV and TB have skyrocketed in this small Ohio town. This is what Kamala Harris's border policies have done. And I think it's interesting, Caitlin, that the media didn't care about the carnage wrought by these policies until we turned it into a meme about cats. And that speaks to the media's failure to care about what's going on in these communities. If we have to meme about it to get the media to care, we're going to keep on doing it
Brilliant.
because the media
Brilliant answer.
should care about what's going on.
I saw you say that. I think the media does care about it. I just read a
No, you don't.
very lengthy report in the New York Times on it. PBS NewsHour did a whole story. But can I
They're
ask
trying to
you-
debunk it.
But you said,
All the
and bring it up.
authoritative
Nobody cared
sources.
about this until we
But
raised
Senator,
this
you
issue.
talked
which is
about Senator, you talked about that your office has gotten a lot of reports. I mean, if someone calls your office and says they saw Bigfoot, that doesn't mean they saw Bigfoot. Why? I mean, you
No,
have
they
a
saw
responsibility
20,000
as a
Haitian
running mate,
migrants,
and
you dumb
certainly does
bitch.
As
Oh,
the candidate
goodness.
to not promote false information,
But
right?
Caitlin, it's a totally fair point, but nobody's calling my office and saying that they saw Bigfoot. What they're calling and saying is we're seeing migrants kidnap our dogs and cats, and city officials aren't doing anything about it. Now, again, I have a responsibility as a United States Senator.
By
I
the
think
way,
media
can I
has a
just, anyone who
responsibility
acts like this
as
is
institutions to
outlandish,
care about truth.
we had a restaurant in Greenfield Park, a Chinese buffet, where they were caught catching seagulls and serving them to patrons. As though you don't believe that people from third world countries come to this country and say, hey, look, free food. Of course they do. It's that the local authorities have no interest in investigating it.
They don't want to believe it when it's their policies bringing them.
Exactly.
I had Korean food. You don't burp, you go. It was a dog, if anybody wanted to.
I wasn't clear.
I wasn't either. It used to come out much better when I was younger.
See, what's Jake looking at his phone for?
And the problems created there, saying we have to make up nonsense that isn't true so that the media covers things that the media is already covering is an odd defense. But
The media was never covering the migrant crime. Does anyone actually comment? Do you actually believe that the media was covering Aurora, Colorado? That they were covering Springfield, Ohio before it had been brought up? Hey, was anyone covering, was the media covering the weaponization of the DOJ until you, Mug Club, supported the undercover investigation? Of course they weren't. They were saying Donald Trump's a convicted felon. They were saying that immigration is actually going swimmingly under this. And then they try and claim credit afterwards, like saying, well, we've always been covering this as though we've been calling balls and strikes. Let's watch Chris Wallace, who, by the way, I'm pretty sure cucks.
Media hasn't cared about immigrant crime there have been all kinds of stories and all kinds of coverage of immigrant crime, and every state is a border state. It was a big issue in the Republican.
Are you saying it's not true?
Springfield. We covered those speeches. It was very affecting. To make up stories now about pets and to sit there on national television and defend it, as Krauthammer would say, whatever they're paying them, it's not enough.
Can we just cut through to what it is? It's not about the media not reporting.
You haven't proven that he's wrong.
This is.
He said they are getting calls about this firsthand and second.
They're getting people at town halls.
Here comes racism.
The reason why we are covering the memes isn't because we're covering the underlying allegation about immigration. What we are covering are
Republican public
allegations,
officials lying,
but lying also suggesting
Hold on, Jake, you haven't proven that.
That people of color are
people from
eating
countries
your pets.
who eat dirt cookies.
That's
you see how
people from countries who believe that their leader, Papa Doc, was able to actually use voodoo because he was ordained by God and they were afraid to vote against him. You know what you've never heard? I present to you the most recent Miss Universe, Miss Haiti.
That's true. That's true. Ooh, would be an upgrade. I think we have some audio from Trump basically responding to Kamala calling for a second debate. Tim, do you have that?
Yes.
All right, let's go. Good. Well, let's go to this really quickly.
Having a lot of great calls yesterday down here, phone calls and lots of other calls, but you see the calls. A very important debate. Now, she wants to do another one because she got beaten tonight, but...
All right, so look. This is, let me be really, we're going to go again to Mug Club right now and take your chats. This was 3-on-1, and now you see it's 20-on-1 as far as the CNN panels. This is where it's your job. Donald Trump is one, okay? Your job, Mug Club. You see what happened with the DOJ story. We have more coming up this next week, by the way, between now and election. Make it not 3-on-1, 20-on-1. Make it several 100,000 on one. Hey, are you from Springfield, Ohio?
Yes.
Then let's do work for you. Make sure the public knows your story. Hey, are you from Aurora, Colorado? Make sure the public knows your story because the media thinks you're a rube. The media, who, by the way, is in the pocket of the Democratic establishment, they think that your voice doesn't matter and you're too stupid to know better. Let's take the word of their elected officials. Let's take the word of their sometimes unelected city officials. We, right now, between now and election, this is where it's very easy to say, okay, it's Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris. No, it's Donald Trump versus an army of legacy media, and this is the inflection moment at this time in history right now with this country where you can actually affect change and make a difference. Hey, we don't know where we will be after. If this election, to give you an idea of the consequences, we know this. Numbers don't lie. Bottom lines don't lie. If Kamala Harris is president, we have to make, we have contingency plans in place here at this very show. Why? Because her, and we showed you, Tim Walz, believe that if you are a political dissident, whether it's in Brazil or this country, you should be silenced and you should be deplatformed. That's us. But if you're from Ohio, Springfield, if you're from Colorado, guess what? That could just as easily be you. They want to silence us and silence Donald Trump in the same way you see them silencing the citizens of Springfield, Ohio. Now look, maybe it's true. Maybe it's not been verified that they're eating cats and ducks. But no one even wants to investigate. That's the point. No one even wants to investigate the claims from citizens in a city. This is why Springfield matters. 58,000 citizens, I'm going by rote, pretty sure that's right. 20,000 migrants in the span of a year and a half or less under this administration. And they are saying, they're crying out, we need help. This is destroying our city. And the media has no interest in running down that investigation. In doing the work for you. Is the media supposed to serve you? And by the way, when I say you, let me put a finer point on it. Springfield, Ohio? Aurora, Colorado? Where do you live? Is the media supposed to serve you wherever you live in this country? Because it's pretty damn clear they will mock you. They hate you. They will not investigate the claims that you make, and you can't expect your rigged system to do so either. That's why we've burned the boats. That's why we have left nothing for the swim back, and we're about to go to Mug Club. That is why between now and election, November 5th, 2024, we will do everything in our power, every dollar you spend. Click that button if you want to join Mug Club. If we haven't done a good enough job, then please don't. Right now you get $24 off. We will investigate, whether it is Nashville, the manifesto, Chippewa Falls, the school would-be shootings that have taken place there, and Gerald went down to effectively a PTA conference, Butler County, We have a girl who was sexually assaulted. We've done that as well. Or the UN. We've done investigations on that. Or the DOJ. If you make a claim that affects your day-to-day life, the media wants to leave you out in the cold, and we will do everything in our power to make sure that as many people out there know your story as humanly possible. That is what is at stake between now and November 5th, 2024. It is the spirit of our country. We appreciate your support. We can't do it without you, and no one else will even try. Stay with us.
The top spokesman, one of the top people in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan, was heard saying, quote, honestly, I think this case is nonsense. Every real estate person in New York does what Trump did. Nobody's ever been charged with this before. It's a perversion of justice.
One day. Let's extend it. 48 hours. And certainly a week. What a difference 48 hours can make. We ran our story on the DOJ.
We're so obsessed with getting there.
And it was seen by tens of millions of people. Within a day, the sentencing in the Manhattan case was pushed until after the election. And within 48 hours, as per Nate Silver, it went from 60 to 64%. And a huge reason that this took place is because of you. There is no scenario where we approve a platform that has Steven Crowder, Alex Jones, or the like. They demonetize us. That didn't work. Suspend us after the election stream. Suspend us for the next election. Suspend us now. That didn't work. We survived because of you. We had 17 million people who watched the election stream in 2020. You were here with us. Between now and election, it's a sprint. Not just for a national election, it's a sprint for the spirit of this country and your ability to choose what you watch, who you support, and the mere ability to speak.
To every citizen who's sick and tired of the parasitic political class in Washington that sucks our country of its blood and treasure, November 5th will be your liberation day.
It's such an important election because you have someone who could be in that White House who has a vested interest in ensuring that legacy media isn't even seen as legacy media. It's seen as a relic of a bygone era that is irrelevant and should be. And that's very exciting to me. What we did in 2020 is child's play compared to what we are about to do this election. We already have on the ground in major swing states and cities in what they are digging up right now before this election with an army of volunteers and investigative journalists and more access to data in real time than anybody else on Earth. If you want to see that, you want to be here with us, there's no reason to tune in anywhere else that night. The election live stream of the century. Imagine dominoes falling in every state with corruption.
November 5th this year will be the most important day in the history of our country because we're not going to have a country anymore if we don't win. And we will make America great again.
The election live stream of the century, November 5th, 2024. Be there with us. Fight like hell.